Chapter 1104. Everyone nodded. This was indeed the best way, because these 10 mechanical beasts were obviously beyond the scope of everyone's ability. In other words, even if they managed to take them down, they would have to pay a huge price. At this time, this was undoubtedly the safest way to do it, but who would be the one to lure those mechanical beasts away? This was a very big problem, because everyone knew that the person who chose to lure the mechanical beasts was in an unimaginable danger. Since this guy is so powerful, just let him go. At this time, Xiang Hao looked at Yishiwen with a sneer. Everyone's eyes lit up. Indeed, wasn't Yishiwen the best candidate? His strength was enough, and he could even fight with Xiang Hao without falling into a disadvantageous position. Most importantly, he looked easy to bully. Far easier to bully than Xiang Hao, who came from the Blue Moon Sea. Although he had a few companions, compared to Xiang Hao's mighty scale of dozens of people, there was no comparison at all. Get lost! In this regard, Yishiwen only coldly replied with this one word. How could Yishiwen agree to such a suggestion that was obviously ill-intentioned? If you want to go, go by yourself. Xiang Hao's face suddenly fell, but Yishiwen didn't care. He didn't care about what Xiang Hao thought at all. The situation immediately became tense. At this time, the only ones who had the strength and ability to lure away those mechanical beasts were the few of them. As for the others, let alone luring away those mechanical beasts, they would be lucky if they didn't die on the spot. Their strength was obviously not enough to deal with these mechanical beasts of the Law Phase realm. Even the warriors who were also at the first level of the Law Phase realm couldn't do it. There was a huge difference in strength even at the same level. But obviously, no one was so stupid to choose to sacrifice themselves to lure the mechanical beasts away. The scene suddenly became deadlocked. Then we can only force our way through. We will each be responsible for one, Gong Sun Juanhao said helplessly. The few of them thought about it. This might be the best way. Go! He shouted and took the lead to rush out. Everyone was slightly startled, but they also rushed over. The huge amount of aura swept over, causing these sleeping mechanical beasts to almost immediately react. Boom! Gongsun Junjie's attack was the first to arrive, directly hitting the body of a mechanical beast. The unguarded mechanical beast's body was blasted open, and a huge crack appeared on its body. If it was a human, they would have already been seriously injured, or even killed. This was the most difficult part of these mechanical beasts to deal with. They were not afraid of death, and to them, injuries did not matter as long as it did not affect their internal functions. Boom! 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 At this time, other experts also made their moves. All kinds of martial arts attacks crossed the sky with colorful streamers and bombarded down. For a time, all kinds of explosion sounds swept wildly. Yishiwen also directly targeted a mechanical beast, and the flaming long blade in his hand directly chopped out, rising against the wind. Boom! The flaming long blade cut a huge crack on the body of the mechanical beast, but it was unknown what material this mechanical beast was made of. But the attack that was enough to split a Law Phase realm first-level expert in half on the spot could only cut a crack on the body of this mechanical beast. Although for others, this was already very amazing, except for Gong Sun Juanhao and the others. Even if these mechanical beasts were defenseless, everyone else could only blast a small hole, not to mention a serious injury. After the first round, these mechanical beasts more or less had some injuries on their bodies, and these mechanical beasts that were still in a deep sleep also completely woke up. Roar! 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 Terrifying beast roars reverberated throughout the area, turning into sound waves that rippled outwards. Yishiwen directly targeted a mechanical beast and rushed forward. The awakened mechanical beast did not have the so-called adaptation period at all, and directly entered the state of fighting machines. On the spot, this fierce beast clawed at Yishiwen, and the huge sharp claws tore the sky, almost clawing Yishiwen to death on the spot. Yishiwen's toes touched the air, and his figure directly overflowed hundreds of meters away, narrowly avoiding this fatal claw attack. Roar! A ferocious beastly roar resounded, and that mechanical beast opened its bloody mouth, sucking in countless blood qi in the surroundings in an instant. Then, a terrifying shockwave directly swept out of its mouth and went straight towards Yishiwen. Yishiwen spread out his hands, and the golden divinity instantly built a golden high wall in front of him, and then the terrifying shockwave blasted on the high wall. Yishiwen could feel a terrifying impact from his hands hitting his body. "Break for me!" Yishiwen shouted, and his hands directly tore out countless golden lights. After this shockwave lost its greatest impact, it was torn into nothingness by Yishiwen on the spot. Roar! A terrifying beast's roar sounded, and after Yishiwen tore the shockwave apart, he found that this mechanical beast had already rushed in front of him, and the timing was just right, and there was almost no hesitation. Although this mechanical beast did not have the intelligence of an ordinary person, when it came to fighting instincts, it was already much more tyrannical than many people. The mechanical beast opened its bloody mouth, and bit towards Yishiwen, and its sharp teeth gave people a feeling of having goosebumps. "Big Bang Stardust Fist!" Yishiwen shouted loudly, and vigorous real elemental energy overflowed in all directions. He condensed the power of countless stars in his hand, and transformed it into a huge star. Then, he bombarded it into his mouth. Bang! Yishiwen's fist directly smashed on a huge sharp tooth, and the terrifying fist's strength directly broke this sharp tooth on the spot, and this mechanical beast was also sent flying by the huge force. In just one exchange, this mechanical beast was completely suppressed by Yishiwen. At this time, Yishiwen finally had the mind to pay attention to the battles on the other battlefields. Although Gong Sun Juanhao and the others were fighting these mechanical beasts alone, in fact, they were not at a disadvantage, and showed their tyrannical strength. In addition to them, Jian Wushuang, Yi Qianqian, and Gao Xian joined forces to hold back a mechanical beast, and it was simply a piece of cake for them. Even Yi Qianqian herself was able to fight against this mechanical beast without falling into a disadvantage. But in addition to these few teams, even if the number of warriors far exceeded these mechanical beasts, under the attack of these mechanical beasts, they were gradually defeated. At this time, in front of these mechanical beasts, the advantage of having more people seemed to be nothing at all. Seeing that Jian Wushuang, Yi Qianqian, and the others were able to block a mechanical beast, Yishiwen was finally relieved. Just now, he only paid attention to other places for a moment, but in fact, his movements were not slow at all. In the instant that the mechanical beast was blasted away, he had already taken a big stride forward to chase it. The long flame saber in his hand was attached to a magic saber, and it burned even more fiercely. Shwa! His figure suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of that mechanical beast. The long saber in his hand directly cut through the vast sky, and all of a sudden, it stabbed into the chest of this mechanical beast. Although Yishiwen didn't know what kind of material this mechanical beast was made of, and it was very sturdy, but in front of Yishiwen's earth-level long blade, it was only able to block for a moment, and was directly stabbed in. Yishiwen also did not know where this mechanical beast's weak point was. After all, mechanical beasts were not like those fierce beasts, where the head, chest, and other vital points were all. Roar! This mechanical beast roared, and its huge front claw, almost without any pause, slammed down. Fast and urgent. Obviously, the chest was not this mechanical beast's weak point. Shwa! Its front claw directly grabbed Yishiwen's body, and Yishiwen, who should have been directly clawed to death, turned into a ball of golden light and disappeared. When the surrounding people saw the situation on Yishiwen's side, they were dumbfounded on the spot, almost scared to death. This Yishiwen is too terrifying. That mechanical beast, in front of him, is simply like a toy. He can play with it as he pleases. Hiss, other people can fight with mechanical beasts without falling into a disadvantageous position. It is already very terrifying. How can Yishiwen be so powerful? Is he really a human? He is simply an evildoer. Everyone sighed with emotion, and in comparison, they had so many people. But in the battle with mechanical beasts, they were retreating step by step. The two sides simply could not be mentioned in the same breath. At this time, Yishiwen's battle finally attracted the attention of Xiahou Xiaolan and the others, And seeing Yi Shiwen so easily suppress the mechanical beasts, they were immediately somewhat astonished. What's so great about this? These mechanical beasts are nothing more than fast and powerful, they simply do not have any martial skills, and Yi Shiwen completely suppressed these mechanical beasts in these two aspects. That's why he seems to be so skillful and at ease. If he was replaced with a similar level of martial artist, how could he be so relaxed? Someone disdainfully pointed out the truth. Everyone was not stupid, and almost immediately thought of these key points, and immediately nodded their heads one after another. For everyone, mechanical beasts were a huge threat, but for Yi Shiwen, it was actually much easier than a similar level of martial artist. When he reappeared, he was already above this mechanical beast. Clang! The flaming long blade in Yi Shiwen's hand madly burned, and the next wave of attack, almost without any pause, blasted out. Puchi! Yi Shiwen's figure rapidly swept over, and the long blade directly stabbed into its head. Its head was obviously much sturdier than its chest. Yi Shiwen's long blade unexpectedly couldn't directly stab into its head for a while. It just paused for a moment, and the beast's claw reached out to grab it. Chapter 1105. Yi Shiwen's figure once again disappeared, and the beast's claw directly pounced on empty air. When facing this mechanical beast, Yi Shiwen was at ease, because the opponent did not know martial arts, so on the contrary, it was easy to deal with. What was martial arts? It was to display 100% of one's strength, or even 1000% of one's ability. Although some people had already trained to the point where the heavy sword had no edge and could produce great power with just a raise of their hand or a kick, that was only possible if they had trained their martial skills to an extremely high level. But these mechanical beasts simply did not know martial arts, and could only rely on their own tyrannical strength and speed to forcibly attack. When facing Yi Shiwen, who was better than them in all aspects, they immediately fell into a disadvantageous position. However, this actually allowed Yi Shiwen to confirm the weak point of this mechanical beast. Generally speaking, the more vulnerable the place, the stronger the defense. After immediately confirming, Yi Shiwen directly stomped his feet, and his figure once again swept out, almost disappearing in front of everyone's eyes. In the space in front of that mechanical beast, a long blade suddenly appeared, and directly fell on the mechanical beast's head. Boom! The terrifying huge force directly caused this mechanical beast to directly crash into the floor, directly smashing into it. One could see how much force this blow actually had. And just when Yi Shiwen was about to continue to give this mechanical beast the final blow, suddenly, in his heart, an extremely dangerous feeling leaped up. Almost instinctively, he fiercely stomped his feet, and his figure directly swept back a few hundred meters. Boom! A huge explosion sound came from the ground, and a huge handprint blasted down from the sky, blasting a huge hole in the ground. Yi Shiwen looked over, and unexpectedly, it was Xiang Hao who had made a move, and not only did he launch a sneak attack, but also directly rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Behind him, that mechanical beast also crazily chased after him. Damn, at this time, you actually want to sneak attack me! Yi Shiwen angrily said. In the face of Yi Shiwen's questioning, Xiang Hao did not answer, and just coldly rushed towards Yi Shiwen. Shameless! When Jian Wushuang and the others saw that Xiang Hao was actually trying to kill Yi Shiwen, they immediately cursed him, but it was useless. Xiang Hao didn't care at all. It seemed that he had already steeled his heart to kill Yi Shiwen. But at this time, everyone was being held back by these mechanical beasts, and it was impossible for them to support Yi Shiwen. Everyone was busy with their own matters. At this time, they suddenly understood that perhaps this was also Xiang Hao's plan. He wanted to use everyone to stall the mechanical beast, and when the time came, he would behead Yi Shiwen and take his revenge. Then, he would be able to reap the benefits of the third party, and the wealth of those warriors who had suffered heavy losses would become the property of the Blue Moon Sea area. This wishful thinking could not be said to be bad. A white palm directly fell down from above and transformed into a boundless falling moon concept which directly suppressed Yi Shiwen. This was Xiang Hao's famous lost technique, falling moon palm. At this time, Yishuan was not in the mood to chase and kill the other mechanical beast. He instantly mobilized his very far saber chi and waved his arm. In the blink of an eye, a flame saber chi chopped down from the sky. Although he was almost caught off guard by Xiang Hao, but Yishuan's speed was extremely fast, and he immediately adjusted his attack. The flame saber chi quickly burned the entire sky, as if everything was going to be burned into nothingness. Boom! That round bright moon was set ablaze by the flames. It looked like a group of round fireballs, but it carried an even more terrifying, imposing aura as it smashed towards Yishuan. The book didn't have the slightest change because of this flame. Instead, because of these flames, this moon became even more terrifying. Yishuan, be careful! Yi Qianqian could not help but remind him. Temporarily avoid the sharp edge. Who knew? Yishuan acted as if he did not hear it, and directly rushed forward to meet it. Boom! Yishuan and that fiery moon fiercely collided, and a terrifying chi wave broke out. In the midst of that explosion, Yishuan was like a god, standing in midair, and directly tore the falling moon concept apart. What? Such an attack, he can actually tear it apart with his bare hands. In the end, what kind of power technique is he practicing? Yi Qianqian's bright eyes were also filled with a look of disbelief, although she knew that Yishuan's physical cultivation was good, but it was not the same thing as being overbearing to such an extent. But at this time, Xiang Hao had already arrived in front of Yishuan. Originally, he had planned to catch Yishuan unprepared and take advantage of the confusion caused by his falling moon palm to kill him in one fell swoop. But who would have thought that Yishuan would actually resist, and even tear apart the concept of his falling moon palm? Even he did not expect this, and suddenly turned pale with fright, but at this time, he saw Yishuan grinning. I didn't come to find trouble with you, but you actually dared to plot against me, then you will die here. Yishuan did not hide the killing intent in his heart. Originally, he wanted to find the seriously injured Xiang Hao. If it was not because of the closing of the palace gate, he would have found Xiang Hao and killed him in one fell swoop. However, in this month, the injuries on Xiang Hao's body had been completely healed, and his strength had also been restored to the peak, but at the same time, Yishuan's strength had climbed all the way to the peak of half-step law phase realm in this month, and compared to a month ago, it was already much stronger. For now, for him, there was no difference whether Xiang Hao was injured or not. Damn it! Sun rises, moon sets! He shouted loudly, and slammed down with his palm. A scene of the sun rising and the moon setting came down from the sky, as if everything in the entire world had been replaced by this eternal picture. Yishuan didn't say anything and just blasted out a punch. This punch cut through the vast sky and directly blasted into the artistic conception of the falling moon palm. It didn't seem to have any power, but when that punch blasted into the artistic conception of the falling moon palm, that painting, which seemed to be eternally unchanging, crumbled in an instant with a bang. This is impossible! Xiang Hao was shocked. How could his full-force palm be easily broken by Yishuan? This was impossible. Even if Yishuan used brute force to forcibly break it, it would not be so shocking. You probably did not expect that I have already seen through all your weaknesses. Yishuan grinned fiendishly. He had obtained a lot of information about Xiang Hao's martial arts in that wisp of soul. He had used the mysterious space to reverse deduce the essence of Xiang Hao's martial arts. Moreover, he had also deduced some of the hidden weaknesses of his martial arts. It could even be said that Yishuan now understood the strengths and weaknesses of these martial arts better than Xiang Hao. Although it cost him tens of millions of bloodstones, for him, it was all worth it. Why couldn't many of their trump cards be taken out frequently? Apart from the element of surprise, it was also because if they were seen by others, they would be on guard. Then, their power wouldn't be that great. Similarly, if these martial arts were seen through by others, it would be a terrifying thing. No matter how one responded, in the eyes of others, it would be full of flaws. In this way, it was impossible to win. That wisp of spirit! Xiang Hao suddenly turned pale with fright. He finally understood why Yishuan was able to see through the weaknesses of his moves so easily. He had never fought with Yishuwen before, so the only possible problem was that wisp of soul. That wisp of spirit had lost contact with him after that battle. Even he didn't know whether it had self-destructed in the end. If it hadn't self-destructed, and had fallen into Yishuwen's hands instead, then the consequences would be unimaginably serious. At this time, he began to regret. However, it was only for a moment, because it was useless to regret now. Most importantly, even if that wisp of spirit fell into Yishuwen's hands, he wouldn't be able to see anything in a month's time. He did not know the existence of Yishuwen's mysterious space, otherwise he would not think so. And at this time, the fierce beast behind him had also arrived, but it did not directly rush forward. Obviously, it was considering whether to join in the battle or not. Although it had no consciousness, but because it was just a simple fighting machine, it also understood that the battle between the two people in front of it had reached a certain degree. After a while, it withdrew from the battle circle of the two people and directly rushed towards the nearby team of warriors. And on the other side, the mechanical beast that had been seriously injured by Yishuwen also began to rush towards the others. Originally, it could be said that the situation could be regarded as balanced, but suddenly, with the participation of these two mechanical beasts, it completely tilted in favor of the mechanical beasts. Suddenly, everyone began to curse Xiang Hao, because if Xiang Hao had not suddenly launched a sneak attack on Yishuwen and put down that mechanical beast, how could this situation have occurred? In just a short period of time, more than a dozen people had been bitten to death by mechanical beasts. Although these mechanical beasts did not know martial arts, but when it came to speed and strength, they were far above many warriors, and they did not have Yishuwen's ability. At this time, facing these invulnerable mechanical beasts, they suddenly began to show signs of defeat. Two brothers, now is the time to unite and fight against these mechanical beasts. Can the two of you first put down your grievances? Xiahou Xuelan appeared at this time and shouted. Previously, she had been acting as a peacemaker, but now she could only brace herself and appear again. Previously, you let me kill this Xiang Hao, then everything would have been fine. Yishuwen narrowed his eyes, not the slightest bit concealing the murderous intention in his words. Now is not too late. Wait for me to behead this unstable factor, then I will go and help you. Chapter 1106. Bastard, what did you say? Xiang Hao suddenly became furious. Ever since he had guessed that his wisp of soul had fallen into Yishuwen's hands, he had suddenly lost his composure. I said I want you to die. Yishuwen sneered. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist and directly condensed the power of countless stars. A huge star condensed in his hand and smashed down. Right now, he only had the desire to kill and nothing else. Xiang Hao's sneak attack had already touched his reverse scale. To him, Xiang Hao was already an unstable factor and had to be killed. Xiang Hao was helpless and began to launch a few palm strikes in succession, trying to reverse the situation, but there was no way. No matter what move he used, Yishuwen seemed to have a telepathic connection with him, and immediately knew the shortcomings and weaknesses of his moves, and then easily defeated him. Countless artistic conceptions were smashed into pieces, just like pieces of broken glass, sparkling like crystals, sliding to the ground. Xiang Hao retreated again and again. At this time, he already had the intention to retreat. Yishuwen's strength was not inferior to his, and more importantly, he didn't know how, but Yishuwen had actually grasped the weaknesses of many of his martial arts, making it almost impossible for him to fight against him. Don't you rely on falling moon palm to run amok? Today, I will let you die under your own martial arts. Yishuwen sneered. He turned his left hand and unexpectedly, a bright moon appeared in his hand and slowly rose up. This was Xiang Hao's famous unique skill, falling moon palm. At this time, it had unexpectedly reappeared in Yishuwen's hands. How is this possible? Xiang Hao looked at Yishuwen incredulously. If Yishuwen had seen through some of the weaknesses of his martial arts, then it was still within the scope of understanding. If he was in Yishuwen's shoes, then he would have been able to see through some of the weaknesses of other people's martial arts at will. But the problem was, Yi Shiwen had actually learned Falling Moon Palm, and looking at his pure appearance, he was afraid that his mastery of Falling Moon Palm was even better than his own. This was the most incredible thing. He was invincible because of the Falling Moon Palm technique, so he was very clear about the invincibility of this palm technique, and the difficulty of practicing it. He had practiced for so many years, but he had only reached this level. But Yi Shiwen had practiced for only a month, and unexpectedly, he had reached such a level. This was simply impossible, it had already far exceeded his imagination. He couldn't imagine that someone's innate talent could be so high. He had always been called a genius, but wanting him to cultivate the Falling Moon Palm to such an extent in a month's time was simply impossible. Let alone a genius, even a monstrous genius wouldn't be able to do it. Otherwise, those martial artists who had cultivated for hundreds of years or even thousands of years would have killed themselves. However, he didn't know how powerful Yi Shiwen's mysterious space was. Yi Shiwen had the enlightening mind ancient tree. So long as he had enough energy supply, his cultivation speed would be 100 times faster than that of an ordinary evildoer. In fact, even 1,000 times faster than that of an ordinary monstrous genius. In fact, any time barrier would be like floating clouds in front of him. That's really the Falling Moon Palm. This Yi Shiwen has actually learned the Falling Moon Palm? Oh my god, how can this be? How can Yi Shiwen also learn the Falling Moon Palm? No wonder he was able to defeat all of Xiang Hao's offensive attacks so easily. It turns out that he has also practiced the Falling Moon Palm, so naturally, he knows all the advantages and weaknesses of this palm technique. No wonder Xiang Hao is not his match. The matter of Yi Shiwen's Falling Moon Palm had also shocked everyone. Everyone looked as if they had seen a ghost. If it was just an ordinary martial art, then it wouldn't be a big deal. But this was a secret technique. How could it be possible for someone to learn it? This was too strange. Why is it impossible? From the time you schemed against me, this has already been decided. Yi Shiwen sneered. He didn't explain much and flipped his snow-white palm. Immediately it seemed as if the whole world had turned upside down. The bright moon in the sky suddenly began to fall, and the whole world directly crushed down towards Xiang Hao. Xiang Hao quickly shot out the Falling Moon Palm. This was his strongest secret technique, and it was a tit-for-tat confrontation with Yi Shiwen. However, compared to Yi Shiwen, his Falling Moon Palm had obviously fallen into a disadvantageous position from the very beginning. After all, Yi Shiwen had grasped the weakness of his Falling Moon Palm from the very beginning. Yi Shiwen had easily crushed his Falling Moon Palm, and when Xiang Hao wanted to similarly attack the weakness of Yi Shiwen's Falling Moon Palm, he sadly discovered that his many years of practice were not as thorough as Yi Shiwen's 1 month of practice. His understanding of all the weaknesses of the Falling Moon Palm was far less than Yi Shiwen's. Since Yi Shiwen had already known the weakness of his Falling Moon Palm, how could he not guard against it? He simply couldn't shake Yi Shiwen's palm wind. Bang! Yi Shiwen's palm wind directly fell on Xiang Hao's body and directly crushed all the defenses on his body. What internal armor, what external armor, everything collapsed in an instant. The strength of Yi Shiwen's palm was simply terrifying. Puff! Xiang Hao spurted out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and like a ball, he was directly smashed into the ground. He was battered and exhausted, and it was unknown how many bones in his body were broken. At this time, he didn't care about his resentment. There was only one thought left in his mind, and that was how to escape from Yi Shiwen's hands. Shua! His figure directly rushed out in the direction of the blood curtain. At this time, those mechanical beasts were attracted away, and no one was guarding in front of the blood curtain. As long as he escaped into the blood curtain's passageway, he could completely escape from Yi Shiwen's pursuit. It was a pity that his plan was very good, but Yi Shiwen's heart was already boiling with killing intent, so how could he let his opponent do as he wished? He immediately rushed forward. You want to escape? Yi Shiwen's figure directly turned into a stream of light, chasing after the stars and the moon. Speaking of which, Yi Shiwen's speed was faster than Xiang Hao's, and in just a moment, he had caught up with Xiang Hao. Xiang Hao had just considered that everyone was blocked by the mechanical beasts, so no one could rescue Yishiwen. But now it turned out that he had shot himself in the foot, and because everyone was blocked by the mechanical beasts, no one could rescue him. Even those anxious masters of the Blue Moon Sea area had no way to rescue him. Yishiwen's hand once again rose a bright moon, and with a backhand slap, a picture of a bright moon in the sky was shot out, and fiercely imprinted on Xiang Hao's back. This time, Xiang Hao was caught off guard, and this time, he had almost no way out. He spurted out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and his body directly slammed into the blood curtain. But to everyone's surprise, that blood curtain was not the entrance to a subspace, nor was it the so-called escape passage. Xiang Hao's head directly collided with the blood curtain. His head actually began to melt, and the parts of his body that touched the blood wall also began to melt. He immediately screamed in pain, and not long after, his body was completely melted. Everyone was shocked. They were dumbfounded as they looked at the scene in front of them. If Xiang Hao had died in Yishiwen's hands, then it would have been fine. After all, everyone had seen Yishiwen's strength, and they had already been mentally prepared for this. But now, Xiang Hao was melted by that blood wall, and when everyone looked at that blood wall, they all had a horrified look on their faces. What kind of situation was this? Everyone had come here to fight for their lives, and for what? Wasn't it to fight for a way out of this damn palace? But who would have thought that this path, which was seen as a lifeline by everyone and used to fight these mechanical beasts to the death, would actually be a dead end? Just now, Xiang Hao's fate had already told them that this path was simply not feasible, and the so-called escape passage and so on was basically a non-existent thing. In this situation, everyone was stunned, and all of them were dumbfounded. Even Yishiwen did not expect such a situation, and even just now, he was ready to chase and kill Xiang Hao into the escape passage. A person like Xiang Hao was like a peerless hero, and if he was allowed to escape, then there would be endless troubles in the future. How could Yishiwen not understand this truth? Many people reacted, and at this time, they were exceptionally glad, because many of them wanted to take advantage of the entanglement of these mechanical beasts, and then directly pass through that blood curtain, and leave this place. As for the others, it had nothing to do with them, and as the saying goes, it is better for them to die than for themselves. At this time, being able to protect themselves was already very good. At this time, their hearts were exceptionally glad that their hands and feet were not so fast, or else they would be the ones dying now. But soon, a thought suddenly emerged in everyone's mind: there was a conspiracy. Yes, they were not stupid, but they were confused by a series of sudden events before. In fact, they were all very smart, and not stupid at all. Coupled with the previous news of the treasure map, everyone only had one guess, and that was that there was a conspiracy. This matter is not simple, there may be a conspiracy. At this time, Gong Sun Juanhao repelled the entanglement of a mechanical beast, flew up and said, "In any case, since this is no longer an escape passage, this matter also looks a bit strange. For the sake of safety, it is better for everyone to leave here." Everyone nodded. No matter what, this matter was filled with an extremely strange atmosphere from the beginning, and they had no choice but to be careful. TSK, have we been discovered? I originally thought that we could play a little more. What a pity! Suddenly, a sigh came from the depths of the palace, and two blood-colored figures appeared in front of everyone, but it was two men in blood-colored cloaks. Chapter 1107. Everyone's eyes turned to these two people. One of them was tall and his face could not be seen clearly, while the other was slightly shorter and fatter. They saw these two people leisurely walk to the front of everyone, then squatted down and suddenly pressed their hands towards the ground. Immediately, countless runes instantly jumped out from the ground and directly formed a huge array pattern in the entire hall. "Not good!" Yishiwen shouted loudly, and his figure leapt out like an arrow. And at the moment he rushed out, the entire venue was surrounded by 4 huge blood walls. Yishiwen was the only one who reacted the fastest, and managed to escape from it. "Hey, there's actually a bug that escaped!" The taller of the two blood-red cloaked men said. It doesn't matter, I will get rid of him. The fat scarlet cloaked man sneered, stood up and said, A bug wants to overturn the sky. At this time, the entire array seemed to be slowly activated. Those experts who were trapped in it suddenly felt a terrifying suction coming from the array below. All the blood essence in their bodies seemed to be uncontrollably sucked in. This is... Gong Sun Juanhao forcibly propped up the Jinyuan in his body to resist the suction below. But at this time, a warrior was carelessly swept by the mechanical beast, and his body flew out, crashing into the ground. Immediately after, his body seemed to be sucked dry by something, and in an instant, he became thinner at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon became a dried corpse. Everyone was stupefied and scared silly. What kind of damned formation was this? Why was it so strange? Everyone, be careful, don't get hurt, otherwise I am afraid that the blood essence in your body will not be suppressed, and will be absorbed by this array. Gong Sun Juanhao quickly said. Damn, what the hell is going on with this array? A warrior could not help but roar, and hit the layer of bloody light curtain next to him. Ah! Immediately after, he let out a pitiful scream as his entire arm was completely melted away by this blood-red light curtain. The true essence in his body was completely chaotic, and he was no longer able to suppress his blood essence. Soon, like the previous martial artist, he was sucked dry. Everyone took a breath of cold air. These 4 blood walls and the previous blood wall that was called the escape passage, were they all arranged by the same people? This was simply a conspiracy. At this time, how could they not understand that they were all schemed, and although they did not know what the other party wanted to do, it was obviously not a good intention. What do you want? Gong Sun Juanhao shouted. Idiot, we want you to die! The taller scarlet-cloaked man said, but his hands were still firmly on the ground, and there was no sign of leaving. Look at your clothes, could it be, you are the remnants of the blood union? At this time, Xiahou Xuelan seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly exclaimed. Linley, who was beside her, suddenly seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes suddenly flashed a trace of sharpness. For the warriors who entered the blood world, they were very unfamiliar with the blood union organization, but also not unfamiliar. For the legends about them, they were often treated as rumors when the elders warned them to come out within the specified time. But after so many years, the rumors were just rumors, and many people seemed to have begun to forget these things, and forgot that there used to be such a terrifying organization. Although many people guessed that this base might be related to the blood union, they did not think much of it. In their opinion, the people of the blood union had long been gone. But now, they were shocked to see the people of the blood union. How could they not be surprised? TSK, it seems that your brain is not stupid. I really can't bear to let you die, the scarlet-cloaked man said with a sneer. But no matter what, you all have to die today. Don't think about it, I smell fresh blood. Today, you are lucky to see the biggest secret of our blood union, how we people of the blood union survive, the scarlet-cloaked man said indifferently. As more and more warriors were unable to suppress the violent blood essence in their bodies, and were sucked dry, a few scarlet elixirs began to appear in the air above the array in front of the scarlet-cloaked man. These elixirs were faintly exuding an incomparably pure power. This elixir is called Blood Yuan Elixir. It is extracted from the blood essence in your body, and 1 elixir can increase our lifespan by 100 years. TSK, it is really a good thing, don't you think? The tall and thin scarlet-cloaked man said. Idiot, you are talking too much. At this time, the slightly short and fat scarlet-cloaked man who was confronting Yishuwen turned his head and scolded. What does it matter anyway? They are all going to die, and they will become nourishment for us to live on, the tall and thin scarlet-cloaked man said. Being able to know this before dying, it cannot be considered as dying in vain. Everyone heard this. It was no wonder that many people couldn't figure out why the blood union could exist, because fundamentally speaking, they should not be able to live until the next opening of the blood world. But in fact, not only did the blood union's people survive, but many of them also lived for thousands of years, and became the old monsters that ruled the blood world. It turned out that the blood essence of these people was used to refine blood yuan elixir to increase their lifespan. Thinking about it carefully, in the past, when the blood union was at its peak, it had more than 100,000 members, and if these people wanted to survive, then how many people's blood essence would be needed to feed them? Those things did not have much to do with them now, but now they were facing the same problem, and they might become nourishment for these blood union people. Hasn't your blood union been annihilated? How come there are still survivors? Linley asked. Annihilated? How can it be annihilated? As long as there are people who are ambitious to enter the blood world, our blood union will not be annihilated. Ha 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 ha. At this time, the tall and thin man in the blood-red cloak laughed loudly. It's time for you to pay the price. Why? Why can you enjoy the beautiful world outside while we can only linger in the blood world? Because you are just some stinky bugs. Yishiwen sneered. A group of stinky bugs that dare not to see the light. You really think that you are something? Boy, what do you know? Do you know how we survive every minute and every second? We are also geniuses, and also heaven's pride. Originally we should also live a life of tens of thousands of people, and in the future, become the masters of a region, but now we have to tremble in this blood world, and struggle to survive. Do you understand that kind of feeling? The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man seemed to be instantly enraged. When we are struggling to survive in this blood world, why can you enjoy a life that everyone envies outside? God is not fair. How biased. It's really funny, when you came in before, didn't anyone tell you to go out within 3 years? Didn't anyone tell you about the dangers of the blood world? But you are still driven by greed. Don't say that God is not fair. In this world there are people who are worse off than you, millions or even tens of millions of times. What qualifications do you have to say that God is not fair? Yishiwen sneered disdainfully. Compared with these people, Yishiwen was the one who really came up from the bottom, step by step, from the day after tomorrow, step by step with difficulty. He had seen too many joys and sorrows in the world. There were many people who were 1,000 times, 10,000 times more miserable than these people. In the end, no one forced them to enter the blood world, so they could only blame themselves for being like this. The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man suddenly became a little angry, although his face under the cloak could not be seen clearly, but it could still be seen that his anger made his cloak slightly fluctuate. People like you who always live under the sun, what do you know? That short and stout man in the scarlet cloak shouted loudly, and his figure instantly rushed towards Yishiwen. Although he looked a bit short and stout, but his speed was extremely fast, far better than any warrior that Yishiwen had seen before. They were geniuses or monstrous geniuses in the past. In terms of innate talent, they could only surpass everyone else. Even though they were assimilated by the blood world and their cultivation speed could not be compared to those in the outside world, their deep foundation was still fully displayed at this moment. Crazy blood demon fist! The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man suddenly smashed his fist down. That single punch caused countless amounts of blood chi to rumble. It was as though all the blood chi in the world was being boiled. The fist force directly approached Yishiwen, fast and urgent, and the power was even more terrifying. At this time, Yishiwen seemed to be stunned, completely motionless at this time. When the fist force was about to hit Yishiwen, he suddenly moved, directly tearing out countless golden lights from his hands, setting off a wave of divinity, rushing towards the blood chi in the sky. Boom! The boundless blood chi and the golden waves collided fiercely. It was as if two stormy waves had collided together. The splashing waves directly swept in all directions. Although Yishiwen's movement was simple, it blocked the attack of the short and fat scarlet-cloaked man. What? The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man was stunned that his attack did not work, but he saw a dazzling golden light in front of him. Yishiwen did not stop at all, slashing down from the sky. Chapter 1108. Yishiwen's reaction was like that of a precise fighting machine. The vast sword ki instantly erupted like a waterfall traversing the vast sky. It directly crushed all the blood energy, and blasted in front of the short and fat man in the scarlet cloak. This sword was extremely fast. Yishuan's dazzling moves had always been a headache for his opponents, because they didn't know whether his next move would be a sword technique, a fist technique, a blade technique, or even a palm technique. It was possible, ever-changing, so it was a headache. Although it was said that all martial arts were the same in the end, it didn't matter whether it was a sword technique or a blade technique. But obviously, they hadn't reached that level yet. For them, different martial arts were still very different, and the way to deal with it was also different. For example, a sword technique was faster, a blade technique was more overbearing, and a fist technique was more unyielding. Naturally, there was a big gap between different moves. However, even if the average person knew that there was an advantage in doing so, few people would do so. Because although different martial arts had different paths to the same destination, each path might take a lifetime to complete, not to mention practicing so many different martial arts at the same time. However, Yishuan was different. With the mysterious space, as long as there was enough energy, he could quickly practice to the peak. There was no problem of having too many and too many. He was the so-called many and refined. Although he knew many kinds of martial arts, each of them had been practiced to the highest level. Bang! The short and fat man in the scarlet cloak shouted and blasted out a punch again. Blood Demon Fist. Countless blood chi was mobilized in an instant, forming a bloody hell. The sword energy and the fist energy fiercely collided in the air. This was different from Yishuan's martial arts. Yishuan's martial arts could also make the blood and chi boil. However, it could only make the blood and chi boil by force. However, this set of mad slaughter blood devil fist was different. It was obviously a matchless martial art that was created to match the situation in the blood world. It could easily make the blood and chi boil even if it didn't do anything. The short and fat man in the scarlet cloak saw that he couldn't defeat Yishuan in one move, and suddenly became abnormally depressed. Where did this powerful person come from? Is he a master of the Super Sea region? How can there be a Super Sea expert among the experts who have come here this time? That short and stout scarlet-cloaked man looked at Yishuan in disbelief and said, "Blood slaughter 10,000 li!" The short and fat man in the scarlet cloak roared and immediately punched out. The mighty blood chi seemed to be able to cross thousands of miles. Yishuan remained motionless. His hands directly tore apart the endless golden light, and patted those blood energies. Boom! The blood chi fiercely collided with Yishuan's palms, and the terrifying impact directly blasted Yishuan a few steps back. Then, his palms were torn apart by Yishuan's golden hands. These attacks seemed to be useless against Yishuan. However, at this time, Yishuan also began to feel anxious. The reason was none other than the fact that more and more people were dying and getting injured in that big genre. Under the dual attacks of the enchantment barrier and the mechanical beasts, these warriors were simply like headless flies running around in all directions. Even Miao Sisi and the others could only be regarded as struggling to hold on, forcibly suppressing the boiling blood chi. Moreover, as they continued to die tragically and turned into a cloud of blood mist, the blood mist quickly became nourishment for the genre, making it more tyrannical. Thus, the speed and strength of the absorption were also getting stronger and stronger. This was a vicious cycle. The only way was to quickly kill the tall and skinny scarlet-cloaked man. As long as the caster was killed, the genre would naturally be weakened. Otherwise, the tall and skinny scarlet-cloaked man would not be continuously casting genre. Die! The short and fat man in the blood-red cloak roared. Countless streams of blood chi were boiling in his hands. He was no longer as calm and collected as before. Originally, he thought that everything was under his control. Even Xiahou Xuelan, Gongsun Juanhao, and the others did not put them in his eyes. Who knew that this kid who was only a half-step law manifestation realm early stage was actually much more troublesome than these people? Moreover, it was far more troublesome. The blood chi rolled over and turned into a sea of fire. These blood chi seemed to be supporting the combustion. Yishuan was not in a hurry. He directly slashed out with his saber, and countless flaming saber aura spread out. Obviously, Yishuan's flame was more terrifying. The essence of the wood-burning saber technique lay in the terrifying destructive power at the moment of ignition. The dazzling light was like the world was about to be destroyed. Boom! The flaming long saber instantly broke through countless blood chi. It's time to end it! Yi Shiwen sneered. A strand of mystical fire jumped out from his body and directly integrated into the flaming long saber. The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man only felt that it was extremely dangerous, but he could not tell where the danger was. He could only look at Yi Shiwen vigilantly. At this moment, the mystical fire directly burned his body. It was like maggots in the tarsal bone, instantly burning his body. The chi and blood chi on his body could not stop the burning of this flame. On the contrary, it became an accelerant, making the flame burn more fiercely. Ah! The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man screamed and fell to the ground. He frantically rolled on the ground, trying to extinguish the flames. However, these mystical fire had been nourished by Yi Shiwen for a long time, so how could it be so easy to extinguish it? Instead, it burned even more fiercely. The cloak on his body was quickly burned, revealing a rotten half of his face. From the scales on his body, it could be seen that he was a member of the sea race. However, at this time, not only his face, but even half of his body had been rotten. He looked exceptionally hideous and terrible. Rotten flesh and bones were faintly visible, and at this time, he could only frantically roll on the ground. Yi Shiwen looked at this person's body, and saw that his body was filled with a strong death chi. It was the kind of death chi that one would feel when facing imminent death. Ordinary people would not be able to see this kind of death chi. His body had been rotten from the inside out. If it were not for the blood Yuan Dan, he would have been completely rotten and turned into a pile of rotten flesh. Yi Shiwen did not hesitate. He immediately raised his hand and a sword chi slashed horizontally. The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man was completely beheaded, ending his wailing. Damn it! The tall and thin scarlet-cloaked man immediately realized that the situation was not good. The short and fat scarlet-cloaked man had been killed, so he would have to face Yi Shiwen's attack directly. Great! Yi Shiwen has killed that person! Everyone saw that Yi Shiwen had finally killed that guy, and suddenly said in surprise. At this time, regardless of whether Yi Shiwen was pleasing to the eye or not, even the experts of the Blue Moon Sea region were looking at Yi Shiwen with a surprised look on their faces. At this time, the grudges between Yi Shiwen and Xiang Hao were not important. Xiang Hao was already dead. Not to mention, even they had many grudges with Xiang Hao. It was just that Xiang Hao was too strong in the past, so everyone had no choice but to temporarily listen to him. Even the experts of the forces they belonged to were usually in a competitive relationship. Without Xiang Hao, they could be liberated and obtain the support of the high-level experts, thus replacing the next person. However, just as everyone was rejoicing, they saw the tall and thin man in the blood-colored cloak make a few hand seals. Around his body, a few more blood curtains appeared, completely covering his body. Damn it! Everyone shouted one after another. They had already tested the strength of these blood curtains, and there was almost no way to destroy them. Moreover, they were being held back by the mechanical beasts, so they had no way to destroy these blood curtains. But even so, everyone knew that these blood curtains were very difficult to deal with. All of you, obediently accept your death! The tall and skinny blood-red cloaked man grinned and said. He didn't feel anything about the death of the short and fat blood-red cloaked man. From the moment he decided to survive in this way, he had already abandoned his feelings for the others. Boom! But suddenly, he felt a terrifying aura soaring into the sky, and the terrible saber chi instantly spread throughout the entire space. This is... He immediately turned his head and saw that a long saber had appeared in Yi Shiwen's hand. That incomparably terrifying aura was released from that long saber. Just looking at it from afar, he felt a sense of danger from the soles of his feet all the way to the top of his head. That kind of terrifying trembling feeling from the depths of his soul made him feel incredible. This is impossible! He did not believe that there was a magic tool that could cause such a terrifying pressure on him. Not only the tall and thin scarlet-cloaked man, but also the masters of the various sea areas in the barrier were shocked, staring at the peerless saber in Yi Shiwen's hand. Even if the saber-chi was not directed at them, they could still feel a chill on their backs. Some people who were observing carefully could even see that the saber-chi had actually crushed the space, and it was buzzing in Yi Shiwen's hand as if it was about to break out of his hand in an instant. And at this moment Yi Shiwen moved. The long saber in his hand instantly slashed out a terrifying saber-chi that was hundreds of meters long. The saber-chi faintly crushed the space, as if it was going to cut the world in half, and fiercely hit the bloody sky curtain. Bang! There was a sound of glass shattering, and the blood curtain that was protecting the tall and thin scarlet-cloaked man broke on the spot. And the second saber-chi slashed down immediately. Boom! A huge mushroom cloud rose up, and the saber-chi annihilated the atoms. The tall and thin scarlet-cloaked man was also slashed into a blood mist amidst his screams. Chapter 1109. What? The surviving members of the Blood Union are still alive? Once the news of the Blood Union's reappearance spread out, it immediately shocked the entire Blood world. The Blood Union was a taboo that could not be mentioned in the entire Blood world. However, for the people, they knew what the Blood Union had brought to the young geniuses in the Blood world. The members of the Blood Union were originally members of the Blood world. They were also geniuses, but now they were reduced to bugs and mice that could only survive in the dark. Many people felt sad for the loss of their own kind, and some even sympathized with the members of the Blood Union. However, as the news of the Blood Union using the blood essence of living people to refine the Blood Yuan elixir spread out, the entire Blood world was suddenly in a state of panic. Even the warriors who originally sympathized with the Blood Union did not dare to say a word for the Blood Union at this time. Not to mention that the Blood Union had caused great damage to the Blood world in history. Just the method of using living people to refine blood essence was already unacceptable to these people, because they were very likely to be the targets of the Blood Union. An expert in the early stage of the half-step transcendence realm could only refine the Blood Yuan elixir that could extend one's life by 100 years. Moreover, the more powerful the expert, the more Blood Yuan elixir they needed. If a member of the Blood Union wanted to live until the next opening of the Blood world, they needed the blood essence of 5 or 6 living people. Such a price was too terrifying, and no one wanted to become the raw material of the Blood Yuan elixir. For a time, the Blood Alliance once again became the target of everyone's hatred. When the entire Blood world started to pay attention to the Blood Alliance, which was originally in the dark, immediately gave themselves away. Many of their bases were discovered, and many martial artists who had been captured were found inside. Their minds were erased and they were kept in captivity. Their conditions were simply too horrible to look at. Among them, the majority were human martial artists. Only a very small number were from the various sea clans. Therefore, the human race was filled with righteous indignation. These discovered bases were breached under the joint efforts of the human race experts. None of the Blood Union members inside could escape, and they were beaten to death. For a time, the conflict between the human race and the Blood Union intensified. More human experts were captured, and more Blood Union bases were discovered and breached. None of the human race experts dared to lower their guard when it came to this issue, because if they did not do their best, the next one to be captured might be them. Then, the elites of Eastern Sea region, which was the greatest force of human power in the Endless Sea region, worked together to form a punitive army and destroyed multiple Blood Alliance bases. They slaughtered all the Blood Alliance members in the bases and saved quite a number of human elites who were trapped there. In this battle, the number one person in the Eastern Sea region, Jing Bai, became even more famous. He personally killed a few Blood Union experts at the third firmament of the Transcendence realm. His reputation was like the sun in the sky. For a moment, the praises for the Eastern Sea region did not stop. In the Boundless Sea region, the human race had always been at an absolute disadvantage. Among the 4 great sea regions, only the Eastern Sea region was completely controlled by the human race. The other 3 were all colossi of the sea race. One could imagine how the human race was faring. and after Jing Bai single-handedly overturned a few bases of the Blood Alliance, his reputation rose, causing even more experts of the human race to start approaching the Eastern Sea region. Regarding this matter, many experts of the Sea race were strangely silent. They did not seem to have the intention to work together with the human race to eliminate the Blood Alliance. To them, regardless of whether it was the human race or the Blood Alliance, they were all powerful opponents. Perhaps killing each other was the best ending. In the Eastern City, countless people were hurrying to and fro. Everyone's face was rather solemn. This was because a shocking news came. Jing Bai, who was out on a punitive expedition, actually suffered heavy injuries and fled back pathetically. When this news came out, it could be said to be a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. It should be known that Jing Bai was not an ordinary expert. Even among the experts of the younger generation in the holy lands of the Endless Sea region, like the 4 Great Sea regions, he was one of the top figures. He even single-handedly overturned a few bases of the Blood Alliance. Among the younger generation, it was almost difficult to find such an expert. He was almost the standard of all the experts of the human race in the blood world. And under such a situation, Jing Bai was actually injured. After that, even more news came out. It turned out that the experts led by Jing Bai were ambushed by the Blood Alliance. Many super experts of the Blood Alliance joined hands and launched a surprise attack on the experts led by Jing Bai. In the end, Jing Bai decisively gave the order to retreat, while he personally stayed behind to cover the retreat. After that, he received the joint attack of many experts, and in the end, he suffered heavy injuries and fled back. When this news came out, instantly, everyone started to worry. After all, the current situation in the Eastern City was almost single-handedly supported by Jing Bai. Especially in the war with the Blood Alliance, Jing Bai was even more of a flag that boosted the confidence of all the human warriors. If even he was injured and died, the severity of the consequences would be simply unimaginable. And at this critical juncture, the war with the Blood Alliance was in full swing. The Blood Alliance had already made a semi-public appearance. They had repeatedly abducted the experts of the human race. It was different from the previous small-scale activities. Now, it could be regarded as a large-scale abduction. It didn't matter what clan the members of the Blood Alliance were from before. However, they only had one identity now, the members of the Blood Alliance. The human race was undoubtedly the weakest between the human race and the Sea race. And the Blood Alliance would need to have enough blood Yuan Dawn if they wanted to survive for a long time. One had to pick the soft persimmon to pinch. The human race was undoubtedly much easier to deal with than the Sea race. Everyone understood that the human race would face a big problem in the blood world if something were to happen to Jing Bai. The role of a top-notch expert couldn't be measured by quantity. Jing Bai wasn't just a simple flag. His fighting strength could directly cause a large number of casualties of the Blood Alliance. Moreover, no one knew when the next wave of the Blood Alliance's attack would arrive. So, everyone's mood naturally wasn't good. And in the Oriental City, Yi Shiwen was sitting cross-legged on the bed. The Tianyuan mirror was floating above his head. It horizontally cast a blood curtain that enveloped him. It had been a full 3 months since they had escaped from the palace complex. Finally, Yi Shiwen killed the tall and thin member of the Blood Alliance with his saber. Then, he led everyone and directly split open the door of the palace and escaped. The people who were almost annihilated in the palace complex immediately left the underground base world without any hesitation. And the news of the Blood Alliance also set off an uproar in the blood world along with the departure of these people. And in the following 3 months, Yi Shiwen, Jian Wushuang and the others continued to advance towards the depths of the blood world. They kept killing along the way. Finally, after 2 months, they arrived in the blood world. The holy city of the human race, the Oriental City. Since the beginning of history, the Oriental City had always been the largest city of the human race in the blood world. Countless experts of the human race lived in it. It was impossible to see experts below the half-step law manifestation realm. There were even many experts in the law manifestation realm, which was far beyond everyone's imagination. It could be said that there were as many experts as there were clouds in the sky. Originally, Jian Wushuang and the others were eye-catching. After entering the blood world, they suddenly became insignificant. Obviously, no one had the desire to be in the limelight. They had already explored this place. They had obtained most of the benefits in the blood world. They had killed many tyrannical blood fiends and obtained many bloodstones. All that was left was for the blood world to reopen after a month. The blood world did not wait for 3 years to reopen. Instead, it would reopen after a little more than a year. Those who wanted to leave or who had already obtained what they wanted could leave at this time. Very few people would leave when it was close to 3 years because there were too many uncertain factors. If they were delayed by something, they might have already missed the 3 years. Generally, people would leave the blood world after 2 years. This was also a relatively safe method. The failure of the people of the blood union had already sounded the alarm for them. For more than a month, Yishuan had been in closed-door cultivation. However, for him now, a month or even a year of cultivation without moving was already a common thing. It was nothing. A tyrannical aura spread out from his body in circles. Countless blood chi fluctuated because of this. With him as the center, it spread out like circles of water ripples. Under his command, countless real elemental energy frantically attacked the barrier of the middle stage law manifestation realm. For more than a month, this was the only thing he had been doing every day. Suddenly, the aura on his body stagnated, and then it spread out in a more violent manner. If it wasn't for the Tianyuan mirror above his head that blocked all the aura from exploding out, perhaps the entire inn would have been smashed into pieces by the impact. The aura on his body began to rush up crazily as if there was no limit. After a long time, he finally opened his eyes. I finally stepped into the half-step law manifestation realm intermediate. Yishuan sighed. Compared to others, the most difficult thing for him was not to step into the half-step law manifestation realm, nor was it the improvement of the cultivation realm. Instead, it was to ensure that his combat prowess did not fall behind. Otherwise, his improvement speed would be several times faster than now. Although the speed had slowed down, he did not regret it. In contrast, his foundation was exceptionally solid. So, even if he continuously improved in this year, from Transcendent Realm 7th level all the way to half-step Law Manifestation Realm Intermediate, his foundation did not show any signs of instability. Chapter 11:10. As the saying goes, everything is determined by the heavens. Although his advancement was countless times more difficult because of this, and he had to pay 10 times or even 100 times more than ordinary people, his foundation was also 10 times or 100 times deeper than ordinary people's. Where there is effort, there will naturally be gains. Yishuan opened his eyes and sighed. Although he had entered the half-step law phase realm middle stage, he was still not satisfied. Not enough, still not enough, Yishuan murmured. The Tianyuan mirror above his head began to turn into a bloody light and entered Yishuan's body. In the air, Yimo's figure directly appeared. Although he had entered the half-step law phase realm middle stage, the enemies he had to face were getting more and more tyrannical. Just on the Blood Union side, there were many experts at the third sky of law phase realm. These experts joined forces and even Jingbai was seriously injured. Although his strength was enough to sweep away the experts at the second sky of law phase realm, it was still far from being able to contend with the experts at the third sky of law phase realm. Recently, the movements of the Blood Union had been getting bigger and bigger. More and more experts of the human race had begun to rush towards the eastern city. This was because the movements of the Blood Union had become so big that several cities of human warriors had been breached. Although they were only small cities in the sea, this was already a very bad sign. It meant that the Blood Union had started to expand from a small scale. The Blood Union was like a fierce beast that had been lurking for a long time. Although it was very lonely, as the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. The Blood Union still had many unknown strengths. As they continued to slaughter the warriors in the small cities, they refined more and more Blood Yuan pills, and their strength expanded faster and faster. because of the relationship of being assimilated by the blood world. Even if these blood union experts could survive, the improvement of their strength would be in a state of stagnation. Therefore, although these blood union experts were the geniuses of the previous batch or even earlier, their cultivation was not much higher than this batch's warriors. It was just that their accumulation was deeper. The only way was to swallow a large number of blood yuan pills. Blood yuan pills could not only prolong their lifespan, but it could also improve their stagnant cultivation. Originally, the blood union could only fight on a small scale and did not have many blood yuan pills. However, as they continued to kill a large number of experts, it was conceivable that the number of blood yuan pills would also increase. Their strength would only become stronger. If this continued, if it was not stopped, it would lead to the disaster of the blood union in history. This was also the reason why Jingbai and the other powerhouses of the human race attacked the Blood Alliance when they found out that the Blood Alliance still existed. If they did not stop them, the powerhouses of the Blood Alliance would only expand at a terrifying speed by relying on the blood vitality pills. Therefore, many of the human race's experts had already considered leaving the blood world when it opened again. This was because the Blood Union had made it clear that they wanted to deal with the human race. There was no reason for them to stay and be targeted by the Blood Union's experts. In the end, they would become blood yuan pills. Yishuan also considered it this way. In the Blood Union, he had gained many benefits. At this time, there was no need to continue to stay. In his opinion, the strangest thing was the attitude of those Sea Clan experts. Everyone knew that the threat of these Blood Union experts was definitely not only aimed at the human clan. Weren't the Sea Clan also their target? If the human clan experts withdrew from the blood world, then the next target of the Blood Union would definitely be the Sea Clan. However, the Sea Clan's higher-ups were strangely calm at this time, as if they turned a blind eye to the threat of the Blood Union. When the three Sea Clans reached a tacit understanding, even if some Sea Clans below were displeased with the Blood Union, there was no other way. Therefore, Yishuan decided to leave the blood world decisively. There was no need to stay. However, once he left the blood world, the revenge of the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan would become an urgent matter. He slaughtered Crocodile Shadow and Flaming Dragon Clan experts. How could the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan experts let it go? They had already ambushed a large number of experts outside the exit. They would kill him once he went out. Facing so many experts at that time, even the current Yishuan felt powerless. After all, those were the real experts of the two clans. They were the real trump cards of the two clans to rule the flourished Cloud Sea region. Therefore, Yishuan must improve his strength as much as possible before going out. So, you are right to listen to me. You have been accumulating for a long time. Now you have reached the point where you can make a breakthrough. I have an elixir recipe called the 9 Orifices Divine Elixir. The biggest effect of this elixir is to help people enter the Law Manifestation Realm from the half-step Law Manifestation Realm in one fell swoop. After refining the 9 Orifices Divine Elixir, your strength can quickly reach the Law Manifestation Realm in a short time. At that time, your strength will double or triple. Even if you are besieged by the Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan and Poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan experts, you can retreat smoothly, Yemo said aloud at this time. Yishuan was now only at the half-step Law Manifestation Intermediate Realm. To enter the Law Manifestation Realm, he had to reach the half-step Law Manifestation Late Realm before he could attempt to enter the Law Manifestation Realm. Once he entered the Law Manifestation Realm, Yishuan would condense the territory. At that time, Yishuan's strength would increase exponentially. It was far from what he could match now. However, it's not easy to buy medicinal herbs in this blood realm. I'm afraid I have to wait until I get out. Gue Yuan sect and I have a good relationship. I can get rid of them to purchase medicinal herbs, said Yishuan. Whenever this happened, he could feel how much trouble could be reduced by having a strong force behind him. Although Yishuan was not a professional alchemist, but he had always been continuously refining some dawn, for him, Alchemy was not a strange thing, and with the help of the mysterious space, even if he didn't have much foundation, he could still complete the refining of high-grade dawn. This was not a problem for him. Even if he didn't have much experience in alchemy, it wasn't difficult for him to refine those low-grade elixirs. Even if it was a human-grade elixir, as long as he had the elixir recipe, he didn't even need the mysterious space to deduce it, and could deduce it himself. However, this 9 orifices divine elixir was not an ordinary human-grade medicinal pellet. It had probably reached the earth grade. However, it was not a problem for him. As long as he had the mysterious space, he could quickly master it. The real problem was the medicinal materials of this medicinal pellet. You don't have to worry about this. After so many years, you have accumulated a lot of materials. It is more than enough to refine this 9 orifices divine elixir. You just lack a primer. This medicinal herb is called elemental returning immortal grass. It is relatively rare, said Emo. Yishiwen did not know how much wealth he had plundered after so many years of battles. Most of those wealth were spirit stones, spirit crystals, and the like. However, there were also many heavenly treasures. It was just that Yishiwen did not have much use for them. Therefore, they were basically piled up in Tianyuan Mirror. Only Yemon knew how many there were. Unknowingly, Yishiwen had collected these heavenly treasures. Even if he hadn't deliberately collected them, the number of heavenly treasures he had collected was much larger than the previous true Martial University. Many of these heavenly treasures were rare. They weren't unparalleled in the world. They were priceless. The key was that he could find them when he needed them. This was the most important. Therefore, even if Yishiwen was short of spirit stones, he would rarely sell these heavenly treasures, because he knew that there would always be benefits in keeping them. Although he might not be able to use them in this lifetime, but once there was a time when he could use them, it would inevitably be the most critical time. Now, there was really a time when he could use them. Well, in that case, I will stroll in the Oriental City's market first. I will see if there are any elemental returning immortal grass for sale. If not, I can only consider asking the Gui Yuan sect to help me collect them after I go out, said Yishiwen. There was also a very large market in the Oriental City. Many warriors were selling the heavenly treasures they had obtained. Not only heavenly treasures obtained in the blood world, but many good things that were rarely seen in the outside world were also gathered here at this time. This was because many heavenly treasures only grew in a certain sea. If one wanted to obtain them, they would have to go across the sea to look for them. Not to mention that it was time-consuming and laborious, they might not even be able to find them. However, it was different in the blood world. The top geniuses of various sea domains were all gathered in the blood world. This allowed them to save a lot of effort. Therefore, in this market, there were often many experts selling things. There were also many experts going back and forth to buy things. Some of them with good eyesight could even buy a lot of good things. Or you can simply put up a list to buy. If someone has elemental returning immortal grass, they will send it to your door. Although it will definitely be more expensive, refining the 9 orifices divine pill is the most important thing for you now. Everything else is irrelevant, said Emo. Yishiwen thought about it. This was indeed a good method. It was much more convenient than asking them one by one and looking for them one by one. However, the price would often overflow by 10% to 20% in this way. However, for Yishiwen, who could be said to be rich and overbearing, he did not lack blood stones or spirit crystals. He only wanted to be able to quickly refine the 9 apertures divine pill. If it doesn't work, I can only wait until I return to the Flourish Cloud Sea region. Although I don't have the 9 orifices divine pill, my strength is not enough to suppress the poisonous Flaming Dragon Clan and Vanishing Shadow Poisonous Crocodile Clan experts. However, it is enough to protect myself, said Yishiwen. Suddenly, Yishiwen only felt a heavy pressure falling directly from the sky. Chapter 11:11. Suddenly, Yishiwen felt a heavy pressure falling down from the sky. Yishiwen's divine sense swept out. He saw that the sky was filled with blood clouds, and was pressing down heavily on top of the city's wall. At the same time, countless magic arrays on the entire Oriental city began to activate. Vigorous blood energy soared into the sky in order to disperse the blood clouds. The expressions of countless experts in the entire city changed one after another. One must know that this was the Oriental city. It was the central area of the entire human race's forces in the blood world. There were countless experts in the city, and it wasn't inferior to the other Super Sea regions. So, who would dare to stroke the tiger's whiskers at this time? Wouldn't that be courting death? Everyone realized that there was something unusual about this. Moreover, the matter of Jingbai returning with serious injuries hadn't subsided yet. So, they were suddenly worried. A terrifying aura shrouded the entire Oriental city. Everyone had become very familiar with that bloody and decaying aura. It was the aura of the people of the Blood Union. The people of the Blood Union are attacking? What? What's going on? The people of the Blood Union? That's great. These bugs hiding in the shadows. It's fine if we don't go looking for trouble with them. But they actually dare to attack the Oriental city. They're courting death. At this moment, the emotions of the crowd in the city surged. No one had expected that the people from the Blood Alliance would actually appear at this place at this moment. The reason was very simple. Even if Jingbai was injured, the Eastern Sea region was still a colossus. No one knew how many times the Eastern Sea region had been fortified over the generations, but it had never fallen before. Even when the Blood Alliance was at their most rampant, the Eastern Sea region had never fallen before, let alone the people from the Blood Alliance who could only linger on with their lives. Moreover, there were more than a dozen experts from large sea regions in the Oriental city. Dozens of stations from medium-sized sea regions were also in the city. It could be said that there were as many experts as there were clouds in the sky. It was impossible to attack this place unless there was something wrong with one's head. Therefore, everyone became worried. They knew that the Oriental city was known to be impregnable, and had never fallen before. But how could the people of the Blood Union not think of that? They must have made preparations since they dared to attack. And it certainly wasn't as simple as Jingbai being seriously injured. If they were confident, then what kind of confidence would they have? Who dares to spy on my Oriental city? At this moment, a loud roar exploded from within the city. The roar shook the surroundings and turned into sound swords that shot out. More than half of the crimson clouds in the sky were destroyed. Jingbai killed a large number of our brothers. Today, we only have one request. Hand over Jingbai and we'll leave immediately. A hoarse and unpleasant voice came from afar. It was sharp and ear-piercing, but no one knew where the voice came from. You're nothing but a bunch of clowns. How dare you spy on my Oriental city? Am I tired of you? Another loud voice leapt out from the city. Following this, an intense tremor sounded out, and it felt as if the entire city had been hit by a terrifying shockwave. The terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions, shaking the entire Dongfang city as if someone was shaking it. Above the city, there were people fighting intensely. This was a fight between Transcendence realms. Half-step Transcendence realms were too insignificant in front of this power. You really don't know what's good for you. You're just humans, and you want to destroy Blood Alliance? What a joke! If you had handed over Jingbai just now, you could have avoided a disaster. But it's too late now. All of you must die. That hoarse and unpleasant voice came from afar. It was still erratic, and it was difficult to find a place to retreat. In front of the power of my Blood Alliance, the human race is like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. How laughable! Then, a few terrifying explosions came from the depths of the sky. The aftermath of the terrifying explosions directly shook the entire Dongfang city slightly. It was abnormally terrifying. At this time, Yishiwen couldn't care so much. Yishiwen could not care so much. He immediately stopped and pushed the door open. He found that Yi Qianqian and the others had also come out of seclusion. In the past few months, everyone's cultivation had made great progress. Among them, Yi Qianqian's progress was the greatest, even faster than Yishiwen's. She had long entered the peak of the second heaven of the transcendence realm. It was as if she had also entered the peak of the second heaven of the transcendence realm. It was as if she had also entered the peak of the second heaven of the transcendence realm. She had long entered the peak of the second heaven of the transcendence realm. It was as if she had also entered the peak of the second heaven of the transcendence realm. It was as if she had entered the peak of the third heaven of the transcendence realm in a short period of time. Until she unleashed all the emotions she had accumulated over the years of being captured. Jian Wushuang was obviously weaker than Yi Qianqian. However, he had reached the peak of the first heaven of the transcendence realm, and was only a step away from the second heaven of the transcendence realm. Miao Sisi, Gao Xian, Sai Qian, and the others had all entered the transcendence realm in the past few months, becoming experts capable of overseeing a region. Although there was only a fine line between the peak of the half-step transcendence realm and the transcendence realm, the gap between the two was simply unimaginable. Moreover, the gap between them could sometimes reach a terrifying level. They were all at the first heaven of the transcendence realm, but the three of them knew that even if they joined forces, they would not be Jian Wushuang's match. Damn it, it's those bugs from Blood Alliance again. It seems like I can't shake them off no matter where I go, Sai Qian said gloomily. In reality, in the past 3 months, they had also been ambushed by the Blood Alliance many times. During this time, the Blood Alliance's activities had obviously become much more frequent. Many people who were active outside had been captured by the Blood Alliance, not to mention the cities that had been captured by the Blood Alliance. Not only did the people from the Blood Alliance need blood yuan elixirs to maintain their lives, but they also needed them to increase their realm and strength. In the blood world, their realm increase was rather slow, and could not keep up with the speed they should have. Therefore, even if the people from the Blood Alliance were much older than these people, they might not necessarily be stronger than them in terms of strength. It was also because of this that they needed to capture more people and refine them into blood yuan elixirs. Only then could they increase their own strength. Although the Blood Alliance's operations had been repelled by them several times, there was no doubt that the Blood Alliance had still caused them a lot of trouble. I'm afraid there will be a big battle when the time comes. We have to be prepared. It's best if everyone stays together and don't get separated. With our strength, as long as we don't get separated, there won't be any danger, Gao Xian said. Everyone nodded. This was a team made up of experts in the transcendence realm. Even in the Oriental City, they were very powerful. Not to mention, there were experts like Yi Qianqian and Yi Shiwen who had already stepped into the second heaven of the transcendence realm. Although they might not be able to kill everyone, at least they could protect themselves. For them, this was enough. Come, let's go down as well. Prepare to go all out and tell those bugs in the gutters that this is no longer their era. They only deserve to stay in the garbage. At this time, the entire Oriental City was solemn. All the warriors began to feel nervous. Although they were nervous, they did not panic. These people were all elites. Which one of them was not experienced in battle? They were not nervous at all. They also knew that the more nervous they were, the more useless it would be at this time. Boom! A terrifying and peerless force came crashing down like a surging wave, crashing against the defense of the Oriental City. If there was no protection of this layer of formation, perhaps the entire city would be blasted into ashes in an instant. Deep in the sky, there were still powerful Transcendence Realm experts fighting. The aftermath of the battle was abnormally terrifying even from afar. What the hell is going on? Is the Blood Union really planning to fight to the death with us humans under Oriental City? Are they crazy? Yes, even if they have accumulated a lot of strength over the years, it is still not enough to contend against the entire human race. Moreover, even if they fight with us and both sides suffer, there is still the sea race watching covetously from the side. Are they really crazy? Countless people were shocked, but even more people were rubbing their fists and rubbing their palms, wanting to have a big fight. Yi Shiwen and the others quickly flew out of the inn and onto the city wall. At this time, many experts of the Eastern Sea region were already standing on the city wall. They looked at the blood-red world in front of them with a straight face. Roar! 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 A series of terrifying cries came from afar, and the entire ground was shaking gently. What's going on? Even the city wall is shaking! This roar, could it be a blood fiend? It's a blood fiend, no doubt about it. Oh my God! Such a terrifying vibration. How many blood fiends are there? So many powerful auras, the weakest are blood fiends half a step into the transcendence realm. Why are there so many blood fiends gathered here? It's the Blood Union's doing, it's definitely the Blood Union's doing. Along with the countless roars, countless blood fiends could be seen on the horizon charging towards Dongfang City in groups. There were hundreds of thousands of demonic beasts half a step into the Transcendence Realm. Among them, there were tens of thousands of terrifying Transcendence Realm beasts. They were mixed in with the rest as they charged towards Dongfang City. The terrifying auras of these Transcendence Realm blood fiends entangled together, forming a head of a blood fiend in the sky that could not be seen clearly. It roared at the sky, and the blood clouds surged. Blood she boiled, forming a huge vortex in the sky. It was extremely spectacular. Chapter 11-12. Everyone on the city wall sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. Not to mention the tens of thousands of Law Manifestation Realm blood fiends, just the hundreds of thousands of half-step Law Manifestation Realm blood fiends were enough to form a terrifying tide of blood fiends. I didn't expect the remnants of the Blood Union to have such power after hiding for so many years. How terrifying was the Blood Union when it was at its peak? Gao Xian murmured in disbelief as he looked at the countless blood fiends in front of him. Everyone was stunned and almost scared out of their wits. Although the entire Oriental city was known as the gathering place of human elites, compared to these blood fiends, they were undoubtedly at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Everyone, attack! We can't let these beasts get close to the city wall. At this time, someone shouted and all the warriors rushed down the city wall in unison. They rushed toward the terrifying tide of blood fiends. No matter who it was, they all understood that they couldn't let these blood fiends break through the defense line. Otherwise, the city wall alone wouldn't be able to stop these terrifying beasts. Now that they were surrounded by these blood fiends, they would definitely end up in a miserable state if they couldn't repel these blood fiends. In the end, they would become food in the stomachs of these blood fiends. Boom! The charging warriors and the blood fiends collided fiercely. The ground was covered in red and white, and broken limbs were scattered everywhere. For a moment, it was hard to tell whether these were humans or blood fiends. If one were to look at it from the sky, it would look as if two completely different waves had crashed into each other. The warriors and blood fiends who had collided with each other had been killed by the terrifying collision. Countless people had been injured or killed in a short time. Compared to humans, there was no doubt that the number of blood fiends was much higher. However, the quality of these human experts was much higher. Every single one of them was a top-notch elite, or proud son of heaven from a major faction. Any martial arts they unleashed would be extremely powerful. Yi Shiwen and the others also joined the charging human warriors. Compared to the other warriors who were having a hard time resisting the sudden attack of the blood fiends, Yi Shiwen and the others undoubtedly had it much easier. Shattering Star Fist! Yi Shiwen suddenly blasted out a powerful punch that turned into a huge star. In an instant, it fell like a meteor and blasted into the dense formation of the blood fiends. Suddenly, more than a dozen blood fiends at the half-step transcendence realm could not resist at all. They were blasted into a bloody mess on the spot and then absorbed by EMO, directly clearing out a space among the half-step transcendence realm blood fiends. However, there were too many blood fiends at the half-step transcendence realm. In the next second, they completely filled up the empty space. Besides him, Jian Wushuang, Yi Qianqian, Miao Sisi, and the others were also killing in a frenzy. Although Jian Wushuang's sword lights looked ordinary, each of them could kill a half-step transcendence realm blood fiend with his sword. His sword light was simple and unadorned. It didn't look like any fancy moves, but these simple swordlights could even stab an ordinary expert at the first level of the Transcendence realm to death, let alone these blood fiends that were half a step into the Transcendence realm. They were no match for Yi Shiwen at all. Other than Jian Wushuang, Yi Qianqian's killing efficiency was the highest. She also wielded a snow-white longsword. With a slash, the blood fiends at the half-step Transcendence realm were instantly frozen. Bang! Following a terrifying explosion, the frozen blood fiends exploded one after another. Other than Yi Qianqian, Miao Sisi, Gao Xian, and Sai Qian also displayed their powerful strength. With their strength at the Transcendence realm, even if they didn't unleash their domains, they had no problem slaughtering these blood fiends at the half-step Transcendence realm. At this moment, a faint fragrance began to fill the air. The originally violent blood fiends suddenly went berserk, as if they were greatly stimulated. They stared at the human warriors in front of them with bloodshot eyes. Then, they pounced on them in a frenzy. The blood fiends at the Transcendence realm, in particular, attacked crazily. The human defense line, which was already in danger, collapsed in an instant. Not everyone had the strength of Yi Shiwen and the others. Many blood fiends at the half-step Transcendence realm completely collapsed under the impact of such a terrifying wave. It wasn't that they didn't want to hold on, but they simply couldn't. The roars of the demonic beasts were everywhere. The earth was shaking. Broken limbs were flying everywhere. Many of the blood fiends had broken limbs in their mouths and were swallowing them one bite at a time. It was like a tide of blood fiends, the end of the world. Soon Yi Shiwen and the others also bumped into the Transcendence realm blood fiends. We can't go on like this. It doesn't matter how many we kill. It doesn't matter to these blood fiends. It especially doesn't matter to the people of the Blood Union. After all, these are only the blood fiends that they have enslaved. The only way to deal with them is to behead them. We must kill the members of the Blood Union who are hiding among them. Only then will we be able to break the offensive of these blood fiends. Do you dare to charge with me once? What's there to be afraid of? Let's do it! Sai Qian's handsome face was flushed red. His expression was a little crazed. It was abnormally exciting to think of these things. Kill! Jian Wushuang didn't say anything else. He simply said the word kill. Yi Qianqian nodded after killing a blood fiend with a swing of her sword. Her eyes burned with fighting spirit, even more so than the men. Although Gao Xian was a little hesitant about whether or not they would become the target of the blood fiends if they charged in like this, he was also influenced by her heroic spirit. He immediately shouted, "Let's do it! Aren't they just some bugs and beasts hiding in the gutters? What's there to be afraid of? Yes, that's right. See if I don't chop off their heads." Miao Sisi waved the sword in her hand that was even bigger than her. Ha ha ha, alright, let's do something big! Yi Shiwen shouted. A huge blood fiend opened its bloody mouth and bit at Yi Shiwen, about to bite off his head. Go to hell! Yi Shiwen shouted loudly and directly blasted his fist into the bloody mouth of that blood beast. Bang! The head of that blood beast was smashed into pieces on the spot, just like an exploding watermelon. Its sharp teeth wanted to bite off Yi Shiwen's arm, but it could only leave a shallow white mark on Yi Shiwen's arm. It didn't even have the ability to injure Yi Shiwen. After killing this blood fiend, Yi Shiwen did not hesitate and directly rushed into the midst of these blood fiends. Yi Qianqian and Jian Wushuang followed behind him, one on the left and one on the right. They were only one step behind him, and they also rushed into the fray. Behind them, Miao Sisi and the others also lined up in a row to fight. The 6 of them formed a triangular arrowhead that directly pierced through the entire crowd of demonic beasts. The ferocious blood fiends that were charging at him were immediately knocked off their feet. The brave performance of Yi Shiwen and the others quickly attracted the attention of the Transcendence realm blood fiends. One could imagine how terrifying a force of tens of thousands of Transcendence realm blood fiends was. Even if Yi Shiwen encountered them, there seemed to be no other way but to flee. Fortunately, at this time, there were many Transcendence realm experts among the humans, and they blocked most of the Transcendence realm blood fiends. Who is this guy? Is he crazy? The valiant performance of Yishuan's team quickly attracted the attention of countless experts. Many people looked at Yishuan in disbelief. They couldn't believe that Yishuan's team actually dared to face these blood fiends head-on. Moreover, they were actually able to penetrate into the midst of these blood fiends. But they are so powerful, especially the one leading them. He is simply invincible, like a human Tyrannosaurus Rex. He is invincible! Everyone stared blankly at the scene in front of them, as if they were scared out of their wits. For them, no matter how strong they were, they wouldn't dare to rush into a group of berserk blood beasts like Yishuan did, because it wouldn't take long for them to be torn apart by the berserk blood beasts and become their food. Chapter 11-13. Although the coordination seemed to be a little tricky, it was enough for them. Just by relying on this simple yet powerful coordination, it was enough for them to sweep these blood fiends. Even if it was a law manifestation realm demonic beast, it would not be able to withstand this simple rhythm. Even if it was a law manifestation realm demonic beast, it would not be able to withstand the joint attack of a group of law manifestation realm experts. Moreover, their movements were extremely fast. Even if a few law manifestation realm blood fiends besieged them, they would be able to defeat them in an instant. They would be able to defeat them one by one, and kill them completely. In particular, Yishuan, who was walking at the front of the team, was like a heavy tank. Wherever he went, he would crush everything. No demonic beast could stop his footsteps, not to mention the cooperation between Yi Qianqian and Jian Wushuang. This small team was like a killing machine. They would not tire at all. One must know that they did not hesitate to attack quickly. Coupled with the cooperation of a few people, they actually did not consume much energy at all. This little bit of energy consumption could be recovered to the peak just by relying on their own recovery ability. Therefore, even if they were constantly fighting, their condition was still maintained at the peak. Yishuan and the others were advancing very quickly. They were so fast that before anyone could react, Yishuan had already rushed into the middle of the entire group of blood fiends. Everyone looked in the direction of their footsteps. Sure enough, in the middle of these blood fiends, a blood union member in a blood-colored cloak was constantly releasing a kind of faint fragrance. It was this fragrance that made these blood fiends go crazy. Everyone finally understood that Yishuan and the others' goal was to kill this culprit. These blood fiends wouldn't have been so violent if this blood union member hadn't been constantly using the incense. In fact, it would have been much easier to deal with them. Hiss, they are too crazy. They actually want to cut through the group of blood fiends and directly kill that blood union member. This is too crazy. But I have to say that this is also the best method so far, isn't it? These crazy blood fiends are too difficult to deal with. How many of our experts have died under their mouths? Pull yourself together, everyone. Help these people delay these blood fiends. Although everyone thought that they were crazy, their behavior also boosted the morale of the crowd, especially since they seemed to be so relaxed. The blood beast seemed to have no way to stop them at all. Even if it was a transcendence realm beast, it did not seem to be able to last long under their hands. At most, it could be killed in 1 or 2 moves. At the same time, the blood fiends took advantage of the time when the martialists were slowly being defeated to approach the city walls. And at this moment, on the city wall, countless rays of light swept up and rushed into the sky. The entire city was shaking violently. Countless blood chi was immediately sucked in, and countless rays of blood light instantly blasted out. At this moment, Dongfang City had turned into a war machine, spewing out blood-red rays in all directions. Like thousands of blood-colored rivers surging, these blood-colored lights bombarded the bodies of these blood fiends, instantly blasting these originally violent blood fiends into nothingness. Dongfang City's deep foundation, which had never fallen before, was finally fully reflected at this moment. Dongfang City had never fallen before. For many years, it had an illustrious reputation, and had even become the holy land of the human race in the blood world. Therefore, for many years, no one had dared to provoke the tiger's whiskers in the Eastern Sea region. Even the experts of the other Super Sea regions did not dare to attack Dongfang City. Because of the long period of peace, many people seem to have forgotten that Dongfang City itself was an extremely terrifying war machine. Once it was completely released, even the sky would tremble. However, these blood fiends, who were close to madness, rushed towards the city wall regardless of anything. Beams of blood-colored light spewed out of their mouths towards the entire city wall, directly colliding with the barrier on the city wall. At this time, Yi Shiwen and his group finally approached the Blood Union member who was burning incense. Damn it, these beasts are really unreliable. How could they let these people get close to us? The Blood Union member secretly complained and was about to escape. You want to leave? Yi Shiwen immediately took a step forward and instantly caught up with the Blood Union member. A fiery saber aura instantly appeared in his hand, and he immediately slashed down. Boom! Although the Blood Union member was also a law manifestation expert, in Yi Shiwen's hands, he was like an ant, and was easily injured by Yi Shiwen's attack. Ha! At this time, Jian Wushuang's sword light directly cut through the air, instantly blasting the Blood Union member on the spot. Without the Blood Union member's incense, the nearby demonic beasts immediately quieted down. Some of them regained their consciousness, but they did not know what they were doing. They were just being pushed forward by the other blood fiends. The sky was filled with the scene of these blood fiends bombarding, and it was exceptionally spectacular. Yi Shiwen did not plan to stay for long, and immediately led everyone to retreat. At this time, a cold voice came from the depths of the sky. How dare you! A huge bloody palm directly grabbed down from the sky, and a terrifying and peerless aura enveloped them, almost grabbing them to death on the spot. The few of them quickly dispersed. Boom! The bloody palm directly blasted a huge handprint on the ground, and more than a dozen blood fiends who could not dodge in time were smashed into half on the spot. Yi Shiwen and the others immediately did not dare to delay, and hurriedly returned to the city. At this time, the blood fiends had already moved below the city wall, and Yi Shiwen and the others quickly returned to the city wall. As soon as Zhang Xian returned to the city walls, he noticed that everyone's gazes were on him. Some of them were curious, and some of them were filled with admiration. After all, Zhang Xian had the guts to charge into an army of 1,000 by himself and carve out a path through the horde of blood fiends. Even if they had the courage, they did not have the strength, and even if they had the strength, they might not have the courage. Yi Shiwen did not feel proud of the crowd's curiosity, but looked at the entire battlefield. At this time, there was no one below the city wall, and they had been completely surrounded by the blood fiends. Seeing that the scene of the blood fiends attacking the city was about to happen, everyone held their breath and concentrated, waiting for the blood fiends to launch a collective attack. You cowardly bandits, if you have the ability, wait for Jingbai's injuries to recover, and then fight again? A stern shout came from within the city. Humph, Jingbai's time is up, and it is his destiny. Why do you have to do this? As long as you hand over Jingbai, we will let you live. A hoarse and unpleasant voice came. They were trying to destroy the confidence of the human race's experts. If they compromised and handed over Jingbai, then they wouldn't have anything to fear. They were most afraid of forming a united front. However, if they couldn't form a united front, then there wouldn't be anything to fear. Stop dreaming. If you have the ability, then kill your way in. Don't think that you can still be fierce. Do you still think that it is countless years ago? Now you are just a group of stinky rats living in the gutter. That's right, you cowards, what are you waiting for? If I were you, I would have already killed myself. The experts on the city wall shouted one after another. Kill Jingbai. Take Xingbai's head as a sacrifice to our dead members. Send him on his way. At this time, voices came one after another. Some were cold, some were sharp, and every voice was accompanied by a tyrannical figure. It was very terrifying. What? So many experts? Oh my God, I'm afraid these are the top experts who have already entered the third level of the law phase realm. Many people shouted in disbelief. The third level of the law phase realm was undoubtedly a realm that they could only look up to. It was the peak of the initial stage of the law phase realm. Although they had the opportunity to reach this realm in the future, it would be a long time in the future. For the current them, this was not an opponent that they could fight against. It would be fine if only one appeared, but there were so many of them appearing at once. Everyone had a feeling of having to suck in a breath of cold air. "Break for me!" However, they heard an incomparably cold air-piercing sound. A huge handprint directly descended from the sky and slapped on the barrier. The barrier actually cracked from the slap, and it actually began to shake. Boom! Another huge fist came crashing down, and the crack that was already there immediately deepened a little. Boom! 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 Terrifying loud noises sounded one after another. The originally incomparably sturdy barrier actually began to shake crazily, and cracks appeared little by little. These people didn't say much. They just attacked coldly, wanting to blast open the barrier that protected the entire city with brute force. They attacked in the void, so people couldn't see their faces clearly. However, without exception, they were the most terrifying top experts. It's over. Could it be that Oriental City really can't be saved? Will a hero like Jingbai really not be able to escape death? Not only Jingbai, but if these experts of the Blood Union break through the city, then even we will be massacred. That would be the most terrifying thing. Even if Jingbai was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to withstand the joint attack of so many experts at the third level of the law phase realm. Moreover, he is currently seriously injured. Even if the other experts of the Eastern Sea region joined forces, it wouldn't be possible. It's simply impossible. On top of the city wall, countless people were horrified. Their divine wills were flying around in the sky. Such a battle was too terrifying. An expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence realm was enough to be at the top in every Blood World trial. Chapter 11:14. In the past, in the Blood Realm trial of many realms, reaching the third level of the Transcendence realm was enough to rank at the peak. Although some people could reach the fourth or even the fifth level of the Transcendence realm, it had only been a year since the Blood Realm opened. Whether it was the Human Clan or the Sea Clan, the third level of the Transcendence realm was almost the peak combat power. It seemed that even the members of the Blood Union were no exception. Now, more than a dozen experts were bombarding the entire city crazily. The shock of the scene was imaginable. The barrier, which could withstand the attacks of countless blood fiends, started to crack under the barrage of attacks. All the experts who saw this scene were suddenly horrified. Where are the experts on our side? Where are the experts at the third level of the Transcendence realm? Why are they all gone? Someone exclaimed loudly. Although there were many experts in the Blood Union and many of them had the strength of the third level of the Transcendence realm, in fact, the Human Clan had quite a number of experts. They were not much lesser than the experts of the Blood Union. Otherwise, the Human Clan wouldn't have been able to challenge the Blood Union alone until now. Boom! It was another shocking attack. The cracks on the entire boundary had already spread out densely as if it would completely break in the next second. Everyone's hearts trembled with fear. They've all gone to protect Jingbai. I heard that Jingbai's injuries are very serious this time, and he's almost at the end of his rope. It's impossible for him to recover by himself. Hence, these people have gone to protect him and help him heal his injuries. Everyone drew a cold gasp. Just how serious are Jingbai's injuries? He can't even heal himself. He even needs so many experts at the third level of the Transcendence realm to protect him and heal him. An expert who knew the inside story said. However, this didn't make everyone feel at ease. Instead, they became even more worried. Jingbai, who hadn't fully recovered, wanted to deal with more than a dozen terrifying figures. It wasn't something that could be done easily. Oh no, Jingbai looks like he can't hold on any longer. We have to be prepared to evacuate. Gao Xian looked at the situation below and said, Now, we don't know whether Jingbai is dead or alive. However, the threat of the Blood Union is right in front of us. If something goes wrong, we will leave immediately. With our strength, even if we can't defeat the people of the Blood Union, It shouldn't be a problem for us to leave. But where can we go? If even Eastern City falls, then we humans will be homeless, like stray dogs. We will have to wait for a month and leave the Blood Realm like stray dogs. Saikiyen clenched his fists. I refuse to accept this. However, he was also very clear that no matter how unwilling he was, there was no other way because the difference in their strength was too big. Facing this group of experts at the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm, he could only be regarded as helpless. If he waited for more than a year, he might have entered the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm. At that time, he might be able to help Jingbai. However, when that time came, the strength of the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm would be far from enough. Perhaps the strength of the fifth heaven of the Transcendence Realm would be above that time. This was not impossible. On the contrary, it was very likely. Boom! Another loud explosion was heard. The barrier of the entire eastern city was finally blown to smithereens. Immediately, a dozen terrifying figures wearing blood-red cloaks appeared in the city. They didn't even look at the crowd. Their gazes were fixed in the direction of the city lord's mansion. That was the place where Jingbai had secluded himself. Do you really plan on shedding all pretense of cordiality with the Eastern Sea region? Even if you hide in the Blood Realm, the Eastern Sea region still has a way to take care of you. At this time, a figure flew out from the city lord's office. It was a young man in a silver-white robe. He frowned and said to them, Kiki, we are all a group of people who deserve to die. Do you think the people of the Eastern Sea region can threaten us? At this time, a man in a blood-colored cloak laughed strangely. Perhaps we can't do anything to you people, but you are not alone in the outside world. No matter if it is a family or a sect, they will all be destroyed because of your stupid decision. Don't you think about it? The silver-robed young man sneered and said. Many warriors instantly reacted. That's right, these people from the Blood Union were not born and bred. Perhaps the Eastern Sea region could not do anything to them in the Blood World, but the situation of the forces they were in was completely different. They could completely lose their lives because of a single sentence from them. His aura completely spread out and enveloped the entire city lord's office. He did not let the external aura affect Jingbai's treatment. He was actually an expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm. Isn't he Jiang Yuan? Someone reacted very quickly and recognized the silver-robed young man. He was actually one of the deputy city lord of Oriental City. In the Eastern Sea region, his strength and talent were only under Jingbai's command. Many people even said that his strength was probably above Jingbai's. In the Blood Realm, the two of them had almost stepped into the Transcendence Realm at the same time. Later on, they had almost stepped into the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm at the same time. He could be said to be the second expert in the entire Eastern Sea region. It really is him. Didn't Jiang Yuan always say that he is a tourist and doesn't care about the entire Eastern Sea region? Now, even he has been alarmed. It is conceivable that Oriental City has also used all their trump cards. Ha 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 ha, do you think we are afraid? Kill them, haha, make them stupid. Who can understand the pain we have suffered for hundreds of years, thousands of years? Why can they enjoy the outside world, but we have to stay in this bloody world, trembling with fear and doing anything to survive? Why? 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 You guys go and kill them. Ha ha, it is best to kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. A man in a blood-colored cloak did not care at all and laughed loudly as if he had gone mad. Everyone suddenly felt a chill run down their spines. These people had gone crazy, they had really gone crazy. Their minds had been twisted. These people had been trapped in the blood world. Not only would they be trapped in it forever, generation after generation, but they would also have to constantly refine blood Yuan Dan and kill people in order to barely survive. At this time, although they had survived, they had already gone mad. The distortion of their minds could not be judged by ordinary people. You lunatics! Jiang Yuan also looked at the blood-colored cloaked people in front of him with some astonishment. Have they all gone mad? Lunatics. Ha ha ha, yes, we are all lunatics. We are all lunatics. Why do we have to suffer here while you can continue to enjoy? Another man in a blood-colored cloak sneered and said, Want to go over? Don't even think about it. You will have to step over my dead body. Jiang Yuan said coldly. Haha, then I will step over your dead body and leave your corpse intact. I will place it at the city gate and let you be trampled by others forever. Ha! A man in a blood-colored cloak sneered and said, That's really funny. Jiang Yuan, do you think you are Jingbai? You want to stop us from moving forward? You are courting death. At that moment, a man in a blood-red cloak sneered and a terrifying blood-chi rushed into the sky. It was like a mountain, and with every step he took, the entire city would tremble. It was abnormally terrifying. You want my head? You are still far from being able to do so. Suddenly, a cold voice was heard coming from the city lord's mansion. Since you have come, none of you will leave. All of you will stay here. You should have died long ago. So, I will send you on your way now. Hearing this voice, the dozens of terrifying voices suddenly froze. Their complexions changed drastically. That's right. This voice belonged to Jingbai. This voice was like a nightmare to them. It was constantly pestering them. They had besieged Jingbai with so many people, but he had managed to escape. This was an extraordinary shame and humiliation for them. Moreover, Jingbai had killed quite a few of them before he swaggered off. The reason why they chose to attack the Oriental city at this time was because they knew that Jingbai was already seriously injured. They were very clear about the principle of not killing a snake, but being bitten by a snake instead. Because of this, they couldn't allow his injuries to recover. Suddenly, a terrifying divine radiance shot out from the city lord's mansion. Then, it blasted towards the man in a blood-colored cloak who was walking towards them step by step. The man in a blood-colored cloak quickly retreated a few steps. Then, he calmly pinched some hand seals and a blood-colored shield wall rose in front of him. Boom! That terrifying divine radiance fiercely bombarded the blood-colored shield wall. Almost in the blink of an eye, the blood-colored shield wall was forcibly penetrated. Immediately after, the divine radiance penetrated through the shield wall and fiercely bombarded the body of the blood-colored cloaked man. Bang! The man in a blood-colored cloak let out a blood-curdling scream. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body was sent flying. His cloak was blown away by the wind, revealing half of his rotten body in front of everyone. Someone cried out in alarm when they saw the face of the man in front of them. Impossible! How could it be him? This is impossible! Someone in the crowd cried out in alarm. It seemed as if he had recognized the identity of this man. Who is he? Do you know him? Someone beside him asked hastily. Chapter 11:15. This person was none other than Miao Sisi. Miao Sisi's mouth was slightly agape as she stared in disbelief at the figure flying in the air. Although half of the body was rotting away, she could still recognize it at first glance. He is a senior brother in our sect, Miao Sisi said in disbelief. How did it become like this? Why did it become like this? He was obviously the most gentle senior brother. How did he become like this in the end? She still said in disbelief. She still vaguely remembered that at that time, she had just joined the sect and he was already the most dazzling genius in the sect. Although he was already the #1 person in the younger generation, he did not have any arrogance at all and guided the rookies who had just joined the sect. Come on, you don't have to envy me. I believe that some of you will definitely surpass my achievements in the future. Sisi, come on, in the future in the sect, you will be the pillar of the younger generation. Tears, uncontrollably, fell down. Next to her, Yi Shiwen and the others were silent. Since Yi Shiwen knew Miao Sisi, she was like a big loli who loved to play and never cried, but now... Bang! The figure hit the ground fiercely and spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with a large number of internal organs. Just one blow and he was seriously injured. And at this moment, he seemed to see Miao Sisi in the crowd and a trace of an apologetic smile flashed across his mouth. I'm sorry, junior sister. I just want to live. Sunlight. White clouds. And the salty sea breeze on the sea. Yi Shiwen looked at the figure indifferently, and already had a judgment in his heart. He could not survive. Most of these people's bodies had already rotted away, and they were relying on the blood yuan pill to prolong their lives. Their bodies had already rotted away, and were filled with death qi. Even if they weren't dead, they were already living dead. This heavy blow was enough to make him unable to crawl back up. The energy wreaking havoc in his body had already destroyed all of his vitality. The others were even more indifferent, and didn't have any intention of helping him. These Blood Union people, after such a long time of struggling, were already as cold as iron. Even if they were also members of the Blood Union, to them, there was no difference between them and passers-by. Indifferent, cold-blooded. After waiting for a long time, the frightened Third Firmament Transcendence Realm experts immediately reacted when they saw that there was no further action from the City Lord Manor. Damn it, we were deceived by him. He hasn't recovered at all, an expert said in a low and muffled voice. At this time, the others finally understood. They were all frightened just now because Jing Bai's attack was too terrifying. This made them think of Jing Bai's peak battle strength, so they were completely frightened. Jing Bai, don't even think about deceiving us. I'm going to take your head. Zhang Bai, your glorious life shall end here. It's better to die in the most dazzling moment than to die of old age in bed. More than a dozen terrifying experts shouted together. It was too terrifying. Many half-step law phase realm experts couldn't bear it at all. They directly covered their ears, otherwise they would be shocked to death by the sound waves. Even a first heaven of transcendence realm expert would have to circulate his cultivation to resist, and only a few people could resist it. These people are so strong. Yi Shiwen looked at these people and said, these sound waves didn't affect him at all. His tyrant body had been trained from his muscles to his bones, and then to his internal organs. His entire body had been trained to the peak. How could this level of sound waves hurt him? But how strong is Jing Bai who can kill them so casually? Yi Shiwen's eyes flashed with a terrifying brilliance, and his battle intent began to surge. He was definitely not Jing Bai's opponent now. However, when he successfully refined the 9 orifices divine pill, his cultivation would quickly step into the peak of the late stage of the half-step law phase realm. At that time, he might be able to fight with Jing Bai. If there was a chance, Yi Shiwen also wanted to fight with such an outstanding person. With his deep accumulation and foundation, once he advanced to the corresponding level, even Jian Wushuang wouldn't be his opponent. Yi Qianqian might be able to fight with him. However, he didn't have much interest in it. In his heart, Yi Qianqian might always be a girl who didn't have any cultivation and needed his protection. He couldn't raise any battle intent at all. However, Jing Bai was different. He hadn't even met him, but he already felt his blood boiling. It was just like when he heard the names of many heaven's pride in the true martial school. But now, as his cultivation became more profound, there were fewer and fewer opponents who could fight with him. More than a dozen third heaven of transcendence realm experts joined forces to pressure. Just as they were about to join forces to attack the City Lord Mansion, a sigh came from the City Lord Mansion. Everyone has joined forces to treat Bai for the past few days. Bai is already very grateful. Since it has come to this point, it is God's will. Life and death are decreed by God. You don't have to say any more. These are just some cowards. I'm afraid they don't have the ability to take my head. Accompanied by a hearty laugh, a slender white figure swept out from the City Lord's mansion. This was a young man in a white robe who looked to be in his late 20s. He was slender and stood straight like a spear. His face was fair without any facial hair. His eyes were like stars, and his eyebrows were slanted to his temples. He looked very heroic. It was just that at this time, his face was sickly pale. Although he looked a little sick, it didn't affect his heroism at all. Jing Bai, you are really amazing. It was my biggest regret to let you escape that day, but it doesn't matter. Today, I will personally send you on your way. Send you on your way. Respectfully send you on your way. The 15 experts clamored. The terrifying pressure of 15 Transcendence Realm experts working together was imaginable. Ordinary people would probably be crushed to death by the pressure. Many experts in the city stumbled and fell to the ground, especially those half-step law manifestation realm experts. At this time, the blood fiends outside the city gradually stopped attacking. Although they were fierce, they were not stupid. Without the incense, they were not as crazy as before. They seemed to be gathering outside, quietly waiting for the next order from the Blood Union people. Is he Jingbai? Yishuan looked at the tall and straight figure in the sky. He was indeed a hero of the generation. It would be a pity if he died here. Yishuan looked at the city lord's mansion. Not a single person came out to help. Obviously, treating Jingbai during this period of time had consumed too much of the energy of these experts at the third level of law manifestation realm. It could be seen how serious Jingbai's injuries were. Even the joint treatment of the experts at the third level of law manifestation realm couldn't heal him. Moreover, they couldn't recover in a short period of time. They were too careless. They thought that this was Oriental City, a city that had never fallen. Even if the Blood Union was bold, they couldn't kill their way into Oriental City. However, they obviously underestimated the boldness of these people from the Blood Union. In other words, their determination to kill Jingbai had reached an extremely strong level. They used the Blood Fiends to contain the Oriental City's formation. Otherwise, even if they were experts at the third level of law manifestation realm, they would only end up being killed by the formation if they rushed in. This was why they were caught off guard. They didn't even have the time to recover their martial power and come out to help Jingbai. The Blood Fiend army surrounded the city just to kill me. What a great formation, Jingbai said with a smile. I didn't expect that after so many years, the remnants of the Blood Union have accumulated such a great foundation. Unfortunately, they will be buried here today. Perhaps you are right. As long as there are people driven by greed, the Blood Union won't be completely eradicated. However, I can at least make them lose their inheritance. Generation after generation, they will never be able to pose too much of a threat. Jingbai, don't try to win with words. Soon you will be refined into a blood yuan pill. Moreover, it will be the best quality blood yuan pill. TSK, I can completely break into the realm of the fourth level of law manifestation realm after swallowing one. At that time, the blood world will be ruled by us. A man in a blood-red cloak licked his lips and said. Jingbai just smiled and said, You are all people who are about to die. Don't you think it's ridiculous to have such a beautiful dream? It's not up to you to judge whether I am about to die or not. What's the point of trying to win with words? Take my punch! A man in a blood-red cloak roared angrily. He punched out, and countless streams of blood were blasted away, setting off boundless energy waves. Within the pressure of the fist, the power of countless laws began to converge. Boom! 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 This punch seemed ordinary, and not too fancy. However, in fact, this was a punch that concentrated all his martial Tao. Just one punch could cripple a defenseless expert at the third level of the law manifestation realm on the spot. The ferocity of this punch was imaginable. Jingbai was still fearless. He took a step forward, and the pressure from the 15 experts at the third level of the law manifestation realm that enveloped him was instantly broken. It was as if a sharp blade had cut through the air. In an instant, the pressure disappeared. He just raised his hand and blasted out an ordinary punch. It was not too fast, nor did he use any fancy moves. Even his true essence was restrained. It was just a simple and unadorned punch. Boom! The two fists suddenly collided in midair. Jingbai's fist was like a sharp knife. It broke through the countless fist energies and the intertwining laws. However, they were all broken in an instant. They couldn't block Jingbai's fist at all. Bang! The two fists finally collided. Crack! A loud and clear sound of bones breaking resounded throughout the city. Chapter 11:16. Ah! With a blood-curdling scream, the blood-cloaked man's entire arm was blasted open on the spot. The rotten flesh directly flew out, and the entire arm bone was completely broken. What? How is this possible? Everyone was stunned as they looked at the scene in front of them. Isn't Jingbai rumored to be seriously injured? Is he really seriously injured? Could it be that he deliberately spread the news to attract the Blood Union's people over? If he's really seriously injured and still has this kind of combat power, then how terrifying would his peak combat power be? Countless people were stupefied by this punch, especially the experts of Dongfeng City. They were pleasantly surprised. They had never imagined that Jingbai would actually possess such a fighting strength. From this, they could see how powerful Jingbai was at his peak. It was no wonder that Jingbai had stayed behind alone to cover the retreat. Even when facing so many experts of the Blood Union, he still managed to escape and come back. If you want to take my head, I'm afraid it's not enough to rely on people like you who hide your heads and show your tails. Jingbai sneered. His sickly face seemed to be even paler because he had activated his martial power. However, he still had an invincible demeanor. He didn't stop and directly moved to the front of the blood-colored cloaked man whose arm was blasted off. He seemed slow, but he was actually very fast. When his last step landed, his figure was already in front of the blood-colored cloaked man. No, no! The blood-colored cloaked man said in horror. In front of Jingbai, they really felt that death was approaching. The despair of impending death had almost driven them crazy. Now, the despair of being forced into a hopeless situation had once again appeared in their hearts. Come and save me! You can't just watch me die! At this time, the others seemed to be stunned and couldn't react for a moment. Jingbai blasted out a punch and formed a terrifying cyclone in the void. It was just an ordinary punch, but it reflected the terrifying strength of a peak of the Transcendence Third Sky. Even if they were all at the Transcendence Third Sky, there was obviously a big gap between them and Jingbai. Everything happened too fast. Before the crowd could react, the punch had already blasted into the body of the blood-colored cloaked man. Bang! The blood-colored cloaked man's body was instantly pierced through, creating a huge hole. The blood-colored cloaked man was still looking at Jingbai in disbelief. The vitality in his body was rapidly severed. It was too terrifying. The blood-cloaked Blood Union members were frightened. This was the second one. For the current people in the Blood World, the third level of the Transcendence Realm was already considered the peak combat power. However, in the hands of Jingbai, they were like ants. 2 of them were easily slaughtered. One must know that even these 2 were not ordinary people. Although they were struggling to survive like stray dogs relying on the blood yuan pill, they were still top geniuses in their respective forces. They were also extremely talented. But now, they were easily slaughtered by Jingbai. At this time, everyone was a little regretful. They were a little too confident and arrogant. Originally, they thought that as long as the blood fiends outside the city could delay the many barriers and defenses in the city, they could personally suppress Jingbai. They felt that it was completely possible. They even sent out 16 experts at the Transcendence Third Sky. For the Blood Union, which had a deep foundation, although it was not considered as going all out, it was enough for them to pay attention to Jingbai. Only now did they realize that no matter how much they paid attention to Jingbai, they still found that they had underestimated him. Moreover, they had not just underestimated Jingbai. A wave of extreme unwillingness surged in their hearts. Although they had fallen into the blood world and couldn't even get out, they still had their own pride and persistence. Although they couldn't get out, they were not any worse than those people outside. Those people outside were all geniuses. They were all geniuses. They were all geniuses. They were all geniuses. They were all elites. But why were they allowed to enjoy the sunlight outside while they had to live in the blood world and prolong their lives? This was also the most fundamental reason for the twisted dissatisfaction in their hearts. But now, in front of Jingbai, who had cultivated for a few hundred years less than them, they felt that all the pride that they had accumulated for hundreds and thousands of years had been trampled ruthlessly by him in an instant. Their slow cultivation could be said to be the result of the suppression of the blood world's rules. In order to refine the blood yuan elixir, they would resort to unscrupulous means in order to survive. However, this was in the same realm. They were utterly defeated by Jingbai. The two great experts couldn't even withstand a few moves from him. This made them completely speechless. They were inferior to Jingbai. Even if they weren't in the blood world, they were still inferior to Jingbai. Why? Why couldn't there be a person like Jingbai? Why could they enjoy the life that everyone longed for in the outside world and become ancestors in the future, but they had to live in the blood world and struggle to survive? God, you're King blind. This is too unfair. The thought of retreating had already sprouted in their hearts. They finally realized that they seemed to be a little rash today. What really surprised them was that Jingbai, who was already seriously injured, actually had such a terrifying combat power. He was almost no worse than when he was at his peak. It was really a huge mistake not to have an expert who could rival him personally come. However, at this moment, a strange flush appeared on Jingbai's cheeks. Then, a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. He was injured. He was still injured. Yishuan clearly saw that Jingbai didn't seem to be so valiant. Those injuries were obviously a fatal threat to him. In a situation where he wasn't fully recovered, he actually had to fight against so many experts of the same realm. His body couldn't take it after just 2 battles. Blood flowed out from the corner of Jingbai's mouth, but his body was still as straight as a pine tree that wouldn't let go. Many experts exclaimed one after another. Not good. Jingbai's body hasn't fully recovered. It's really too much for him to fight against so many experts of the third sky of the law phase realm. This can't go on. Even if Jingbai's combat power is invincible, there's no way he can deal with so many people. It's a mistake. He should immediately escape now. Everything can still be done. If he continues to hold on like this, it's really over. He can't leave. Yishuan stared at Jingbai and said, Once he leaves, not only will all the experts in the city suffer, but most importantly, those experts of the third sky of the law phase realm who are protecting him in the city lord's mansion will be slaughtered. You mean? Miao Sisi said in disbelief. Yes, he's trying to buy time for these people. It's said that when Jingbai came back, he was like a lamp that had run out of oil and was about to die at any time. But look at him now, he can still kill 2 experts of the third sky of the law phase realm. It's obvious how much these people have paid to treat him during this period of time. Now, they can only leave Jingbai alone to fight against the enemies. He can't help at all. Yishuan nodded and said, Jingbai wants to use his life to delay the people of the Blood Union. Oriental City is protected by a barrier. As long as these people are delayed, then there's no worry of the city being breached. In the end, even if he dies in battle, as long as the original experts of the third sky of the law phase realm in the city recover, they can activate the many arrays in the city and completely bury these people of the Blood Union. At the very least, they can drive them away. Gao Xian sighed and said, He's going to take on everything by himself. Jingbai is a man. I've never admired anyone in my life, but I admire him, Sikuoyan said as he looked at Jingbai in the sky. In everyone's eyes, Sikuoyan had a tendency to be narcissistic. He was usually very lively and playful. However, everyone knew that he was a very proud person. Even when it came to Yishuan, he had never been sincerely convinced. At this time, everyone wanted to kill the enemy, but they were powerless. There was no way. Their strength was far inferior to the experts of the third sky of the law phase realm in the sky. Although they were easily slaughtered by Jingbai like pigs and dogs, it was because Jingbai was too powerful, not because these people were not powerful enough. The thick qi on Yishuan's body began to boil. If necessary, he might take action. Although it might not be of much use, he could definitely delay 1 or 2 experts of the third sky of the law phase realm. The eyes of many experts in the city flickered. They clearly had the same thought. At this time, they should not let Jingbai fight alone. And if Yishiwen and the others could see this, the people of the Blood Union could naturally see it too. Are you trying to scare us? Jingbai's injuries have not healed at all. I'm afraid he's at the end of his rope and is just barely hanging on. Damn it, we were actually fooled by a person who is about to die. Damn it, bastard, how dare you lie to us? After we kill Jingbai, I will definitely slaughter the entire city. What impregnable city? Is there such a place in this world? How can there be a place that will never fall? Some experts of the Blood Union roared. They realized that they had been fooled by Jingbai. More importantly, they had been scared by Jingbai. This was simply intolerable to them. Not good, we were still deceived. Jingbai wants to stall for time and wait for those experts at the third level of the Transcendence Realm to recover. We can't be fooled again. Go, we must kill Jingbai before those people return. Chapter 11:17. At this moment, these people finally reacted. They finally understood Jingbai's plan. Originally, they weren't that anxious. In any case, Jingbai would definitely be dead if it was a little earlier or a little later. Especially after he bled, it was even more so. They could see that Jingbai was seriously injured. So what if he was brave and invincible? He would still be dead. However, they suddenly came to their senses. Jingbai wasn't the only top-notch expert in Dongfang City. It was just that those people were temporarily unable to recover. Once they recovered, they would definitely die. After all, this was Dongfang City. There were countless boundaries and defenses in the city. This was a terrifying land of death. If it wasn't for the fact that they could use these blood fiends to restrain Dongfang City's defenses, even they wouldn't have dared to foolishly rush into the city. The truth was just as they expected. Oriental City, which had its defenses restrained, allowed them to rush in. However, they now realized that if they did not hurry up, they might be completely annihilated and buried in Oriental City. Previously, Jingbei said that they would all be buried here. It was a pity. It was definitely not just a boast. If they continued to delay, then it was very likely that it would become a reality. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but feel a little anxious. No, if we only rely on these useless people, how can we seriously injure Jingbai and even make him fight to the point of exhaustion? Yishuwen said with a frown. Although these people were also at the third level of the law manifestation realm, they were not a match for Jingbai even when he was seriously injured. Let alone when he was in his peak state. With the ability of these people, even if the other experts of the Blood Union were included, it was impossible to injure Jingbai to such an extent. Yishuwen, who was also capable of sweeping away experts of the same level, had a deep understanding of this. Even if a group of dozens of experts at the second level of the law manifestation realm besieged him, it was impossible to injure him to such an extent. This was because the gap between the strength of both sides had reached a certain extent. If anyone wanted to injure Jingbai to such a degree, there had to be at least one person whose strength was on par with Jingbai. At the very least, that person had to be an elite who was not that much weaker than Jingbai. Blood Alliance had been accumulating strength for many years, and it would not be surprising no matter how many elites they had. But now that this expert didn't appear here, it meant that he was also heavily injured, so there was no way for him to appear here. If this was the case, then everything made sense. Since both sides were heavily injured, it was up to who could kill the other before he recovered. Jingbai smiled. Although his plot had been seen through, his expression didn't change in the slightest. He said loudly, "Jingbai's great head is here. Who will chop it off? Jingbai is troublesome. Everyone, let's join forces and chop off his head to intimidate everyone." At this time, a man in a blood-red cloak shouted loudly. At this time, everyone understood that if they went up one by one, it would be tantamount to delivering food to him. In the end, Jingbai might be exhausted to death, but they would also suffer casualties. Everyone stopped hesitating and attacked one after another. Boom! 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 14 terrifying experts at the third sky of the law manifestation realm attacked with all their might. It was really terrifying. The sky was shaking, and the terrifying attack instantly evaporated countless blood chi. They instantly joined forces and blasted at Jingbai. Jingbai finally attacked seriously at this time. A shining iron sword appeared in his hand. He took a step forward and his figure skimmed into the air. All the chi in his body boiled and formed a white robe on his body. He used his sword to break the joint attack of various martial arts. One after another, terrifying attacks mixed with martial arts laws from both sides. They collided in the sky and scattered. They were all experts who had stepped into the transcendence realm. Any one of them could be called a martial arts master of the present age. Although they were only experts of the younger generation, in terms of strength, they could already defeat many experts of the older generation. Boom! The terrifying collision set off a terrifying airwave that blew down directly. Many warriors at the half-step law manifestation realm couldn't even react in time and were blown away. They fell off the city wall and quickly became the food of the blood fiends that had been waiting for a long time. Even those who weren't blown away had to put up a chi shield to prevent themselves from being blown away. At this time, only the law manifestation realm experts could stop them. Seeing that the aftermath of the battle had caused so much damage, Jingbai sang loudly and directly turned into a white light that soared into the sky. After that, the 14 experts from the Blood Union followed closely. They didn't want to let Jingbai go. Boom! 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 Terrifying explosions erupted in the sky one after another. Large areas of the sky collapsed, and countless blood chi exploded, forming a huge vacuum. Then, more blood chi came from a distance to fill the vacuum, forming a huge cyclone that covered everything. At this time, Yishuan took a step forward and turned into a flowing light. He immediately chased after them. Yi Qianqian hesitated for a while, but she and Jian Wushuang also chased after them. At this time, among the crowd, there were also a few flowing lights that followed Jingbai and the others and directly rushed forward. Among these people, they were basically at the second heaven of the law manifestation realm. Judging from their aura, they weren't ordinary experts at the second heaven of the law manifestation realm. They were experts who could exchange blows with ordinary experts at the third heaven of the law manifestation realm. At the very least, they could protect themselves. That was why they dared to chase after them. If it were an ordinary person, they wouldn't dare to chase after them at all. When Yishuan arrived, he could only feel the aftermath of the battle coming from the depths of the sky. The battle between both sides had reached the climax. Poof! Jingbai's longsword directly pierced through a blood union expert. The sword aura minced his rotten internal organs into pieces. But at the same time, there were a few obvious marks on his body. He was attacked by several experts at the same time and immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. If he was in his peak state, this level of attack might not be considered much. But for the current Jingbai, this was already a serious injury that could seriously injure him. Jingbai almost staggered and almost fell from the sky. A blood union expert was about to rush forward and give Jingbai a fatal attack. As for his companion who was stabbed to death, he didn't care at all. Suddenly, a flaming saber aura soared into the sky. The dazzling saber light almost covered the entire sky and directly slashed down towards him. He hurriedly retreated, dodging this fatal attack. This saber was fast and accurate. It was definitely not ordinary. Although he was already a Transcendence Realm Third Sky expert, if he was really hit by it, he would probably be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Although their strength was still very terrifying and even more terrifying than before because of the blood chi erosion, their physical bodies were obviously not comparable to when they were at their peak. If this saber slashed down, it would definitely seriously injure him. At this time, he saw that it was a green figure. A young man in green clothes stood in the sky. His figure was straight like a pine tree. In his hand, there was a flaming long saber in the air. His blood chi was also burning with crackling sounds. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes. It was as if he was looking at some annoying bugs in the sewers. Yes, it was this kind of gaze. It was almost the same as Jingbai's gaze. It was so annoying. It made people want to dig out his eyeballs. He was roaring in his heart. What do you know? What do you know? Do you know the pain of struggling to survive in the blood world? Why are you looking at us with such eyes? Damn it, damn it, damn it! Forget about Jingbai. Who do you think you are? Kid, you're courting death! That blood union expert's eyes turned red, and he coldly stared at Yishiwen. The anger in his heart was so intense that it seemed as if it could burn through the vault of heaven. Just some bugs that can only live in the shadows, Yishiwen said. I didn't want to make a move at first, but I really can't stand seeing you guys attacking with numbers. Make a move? Just you? You're just an ant in the half-step transcendence realm. You really think you're a big shot, right? The blood union expert shouted coldly. The terrifying killing intent from his body covered the sky and the earth as he rushed towards Yishiwen. You will know soon whether I'm bragging or not. Let's talk if you can take my saber. Yishiwen sneered. He casually grabbed something in the air, and grabbed a murderous weapon that was exuding a terrifying ominous aura from head to toe. What should I do? I can't control this blade very well. Don't blame me if I die. The blood union expert suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. This murderous saber gave him a very bad feeling when it just came out. This snow-white murderous saber gave him an extremely dangerous feeling, as if there was a peerless beast crawling in it. Yishiwen took a deep breath. His arm was trembling slightly. The emergence immortal exterminating saber seemed to be completely excited and wanted to escape from Yishiwen's hand. Immediately after, he waved the saber. It was just an ordinary saber slash, but the chi in Yishiwen's body was like a torrent. Without the obstruction of a dam, it swept towards the long saber crazily. Then, it turned into a shocking saber aura and instantly slashed out. Clang! The saber aura instantly swept up, and it was incredibly sharp. A large amount of blood aura was instantly cut apart, and as if it could crush everything, it cut down horizontally in the air. Even though it had yet to reach Blood Alliance, the terrifying opportunity had already locked down on the Blood Alliance elite. Chapter 11-18. Hum! The terrifying saber aura instantly left the saber and slashed out a terrifying saber aura that was hundreds of meters long. It slashed towards the Blood Union expert. Damn it, damn it! The Blood Union expert made a series of hand seals and formed a blood tide in the air, trying to stop the saber aura. It was like a vast ocean that wanted to overturn the saber aura. However, this saber aura was like a huge and ferocious beast. It slashed through the blood tide and destroyed countless blood tides. There was no way to stop the saber aura from slashing down. Boom! The saber aura slashed on the Blood Union expert. Ah! The Blood Union expert screamed and jumped out. There was a shocking wound on his body. It went from the top of his head to the lower half of his body. He was almost cut in half by this terrifying saber aura. But even so, this saber aura shattered all the defenses on his body in an instant. Even his Earth-level inner armor was shattered in an instant. One could imagine how terrifying the power of this saber was. At this time, he could only stare at Yishiwen with a horrified gaze. At this time, Yi Qianqian and Jian Wushuang just arrived and saw such a shocking scene. An expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm was actually in such a sorry state under Yishiwen's hands. If he did not have many defensive magic weapons on him, that saber aura was enough to cut an expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm in half. However, even so, it was shocking enough. After all, there was a world of difference between an expert at the second heaven of the Transcendence Realm and the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm. It could not be crossed easily. They were very clear that although Yishiwen's strength was not bad, it was not to the point where he could easily injure an expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm. There was only one reason, and that was the murderous saber in his hand. In fact, they had all seen that saber before because Yishiwen used the saber to open the chain on Yi Qianqian's shoulder blade. However, at that time, everyone felt that the saber was incomparably sharp. They did not think that it would have such terrifying power. The blood union expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence realm was almost killed. It was too shocking. What a powerful slash! Who is this person? How could he be so powerful? At this time, in the city, countless experts saw this scene, and all of them were shocked. Even though most of the people's attention was attracted by the fight between Jingbai and the other elites, when Jingbai stabbed a Blood Alliance elite to death, the crowd cheered. When Jingbai was struck a few times, everyone cried out in alarm. They were worried for Jingbai because they knew very well that if the eastern city was breached and Jingbai was killed, then the only fate that awaited them would be the fate of being slaughtered. There would be no exceptions. Regardless of their original standpoint, regardless of which power they belonged to, at this moment, all of them stood on Jingbai's side. Therefore, many people flew into the air in an attempt to hold back these blood union experts. Although they might not be a match for these third firmament transcendence realm blood union experts, holding them back was not a problem. As long as Jingbai could free up his hands in the end and kill all these people, then their efforts would not be in vain. Among these people, Yishiwen, who was originally only a half-step to the middle stage of the Transcendence realm, was the least optimistic. Although many of them had seen Yishiwen's massacre in the Blood Fiends, the concept of Blood Fiends and the Blood Union experts was not the same. The combat power of a top expert far exceeded a group of mediocre warriors. At this time, Yishiwen displayed amazing combat power. He actually seriously injured a third heaven of the Transcendence realm expert with one slash. This combat power was almost on par with Jingbai. That's great. With his help, there is hope for Jingbai to hold on. That's right. Our Oriental city will be saved now. Don't be happy too early. He obviously used the saber in his hand. If he didn't have that saber, it would be impossible for him to have such strength. However, the more powerful this kind of martial instrument is, the more energy it consumes. It can't be used for long. Look, his breathing is getting heavier, and he's panting. You should know that he only used one slash. At this rate, he can't use more slashes. At most, he can kill 1 or 2 blood union experts. It's better than nothing. But even so, it's still better than nothing. If one person can be eliminated, Jingbai's chances of winning will increase by 1 point. Isn't that good? Just as they had expected, although this attack didn't look too gorgeous, but for Yishiwen, it consumed a lot of Jinyuan. 1/5 of the Jinyuan inside his body had been used up in an instant. In other words, he could only use this kind of blade technique for 5 times. After that, his whole body's Jinyuan would be completely exhausted. This murderous saber had once killed a celestial. Its grade was unimaginably high. It wasn't something that he could freely control now. Even if he forcefully used it like this, the consumption of chi was still terrifying. It had to be known that his current real essence was so vigorous that it could be said that he could casually fight for several days and nights without consuming much of his real essence. This was because he could replenish it very quickly. With this comparison, one could imagine how terrifying it was for him to have 1/5 of his real essence drawn out in one breath. However, even though he exhausted a lot of his energy, the effects were also very clear. If he were in Blood Alliance's place, then no matter what he did, at most, he would only be able to hold back this Blood Alliance elite. It would already be very good if he could injure him lightly, much less injure him so heavily. The Blood Union expert in front of him was seriously injured by him with just one slash. If he didn't use the emergence immortal exterminating saber, it would be impossible for him to do so. Yishiwen's breathing gradually became rapid. He grinned. I've said it before. Don't blame me when you die. Yishiwen sneered. Suddenly, the emergence immortal exterminating saber in his hand burst out a terrifying saber light and instantly blasted out. The saber light was fast and urgent. In an instant, it slashed towards the Blood Union expert. All of this seemed to be a scene. In fact, the interval between Yi Shiwen's previous slash and the next slash was only a few seconds. His next slash had already been launched. After being seriously injured by Yi Shiwen, how could the Blood Union expert not know how powerful Yi Shiwen was? He also knew how terrifying this slash was. But even if he knew, it was useless. Yi Shiwen's speed was too fast. He didn't have time to react at all. After being seriously injured by Yi Shiwen's terrifying saber aura, his reaction speed was obviously reduced a lot. Most of the power in his body was used to suppress the raging saber aura. He had no time to react at all. The saber aura was like a fierce dragon that directly blasted into the body of the Blood Union expert. Bang! The Blood Union expert's body suddenly exploded in the air. He directly turned into a cloud of blood mist and was absorbed by Tianyuan mirror. Although they had already expected it, when they really saw this scene, they were still deeply shocked. One must know that this was not some radish or cabbage, but a terrifying expert at the third level of law manifestation realm. However, in front of Yi Shiwen, he was killed like cutting melons and vegetables. At this time, except for the battle between Jing Bai and the remaining Blood Union experts that was still in full swing, the others were already dumbfounded as they looked at Yi Shiwen. It was not that they didn't understand, but the world was changing fast. Good, such a strong slash. This slash is simply amazing. Some people even began to have ideas about Yi Shiwen's emergence immortal exterminating saber. Humans were greedy and dissatisfied no matter where they were. Even in such a dangerous situation, there were still many people who had ideas about emergence immortal exterminating saber. Many people had already been blinded by the terrifying power of emergence immortal exterminating saber. They felt that even this half-step law manifestation realm intermediate kid could actually kill a third level of law manifestation realm expert with one slash. If it were them, wouldn't they be invincible in the world after obtaining it? At least, they would be invincible in the blood realm. Such a good treasure should not be tarnished in the hands of a half-step law manifestation realm intermediate kid. Only they, were worthy of such a peerless good saber. They had completely forgotten that although Yi Shiwen borrowed the power of emergence immortal exterminating saber, in terms of strength, he was already the best in the second level of law manifestation realm. If it was a third level of law manifestation realm expert, it would be fine. However, with just these few people, they wanted to have ideas about Yi Shiwen's emergence immortal exterminating saber. It was tantamount to courting death. Ha ha ha, Yi Shiwen, this is the best blood essence I have absorbed so far. Hurry up and kill a few more experts and absorb all their blood essence. In this way, Tianyuan mirror can be further improved, Yemo said with a laugh. His tone was also unusually excited. Yi Shiwen was a little helpless. This was a third level of law manifestation realm expert. Did he think that he was a radish or cabbage on the street? He killed as many as he wanted to. Not to mention the large number, just his strength alone was insufficient. He knew very well that he only borrowed the emergence immortal exterminating saber just now to severely injure him, and then kill him. But even so, 2/5 of his chi was drawn. In other words, he could not fight for a long time. If he was besieged, he would not use emergence immortal exterminating saber at all. Otherwise, he would simply be asking for trouble. Chapter 11-19. If Yi Shiwen wanted to kill a large number of experts at the third or even the fourth heaven of the Transcendence Realm, he would have to enter the half-step Transcendence Realm, or even the Transcendence Realm to be able to do so. He was panting heavily. 2/5 of his chi had been extracted in one go. Even with his strength, it was impossible for him to deal with it so easily. In the eyes of outsiders, he was almost exhausted. After all, if a warrior in the middle stage of the Transcendence Realm did not have a peerless saber, how could he threaten an expert in the third heaven of the Transcendence Realm? Everyone had seen the power of the two sabers with their own eyes. According to the strength of a warrior in the middle stage of the half-step Transcendence Realm, 2 sabers should be his limit. Even an ordinary expert in the middle stage of the half-step transcendence realm might not even be able to swing one's saber. The fact that he was able to swing his saber twice was already beyond many people's expectations. TSK, kid, hand over the saber. Such a good thing is not something you can control. At this time, an expert from the Blood Union laughed sinisterly and pounced towards Yishiwen, who was panting in midair. Although he was still a little afraid of the emergence immortal exterminating saber, he was already attracted by the temptation of the emergence immortal exterminating saber. He didn't think much at all. In his opinion, Yishiwen had already exhausted his chi. It was impossible for him to continue controlling the emergence immortal exterminating saber. Without the emergence immortal exterminating saber, Yishiwen was not worthy of his attention. In their eyes, Yishiwen was a child holding a huge gold ingot and walking in a busy market. There were greedy eyes all around him. There would always be people who couldn't help but snatch it. Yishiwen sneered. Did they really think he was a child who couldn't fight back? What a joke! Previously, he chose to keep the emergence immortal exterminating saber a secret because of these people's greed. It was the same no matter which clan they were from. Greed, it was always greed. However, he had no choice but to act now. He had to lend Xingbai a helping hand. Just as Saiki Yen had said, Xingbai was a real man. It was not because of his strength, but because of his actions. He was a real man. The only thing he could use to increase his combat power in a short period of time was the emergence immortal exterminating saber. Hence, he could only choose to expose the emergence immortal exterminating saber. However, it would be a huge mistake to think that he was just a child holding a gold nugget. What if this child holding the gold nugget knew martial arts? That was completely beyond everyone's imagination. Now, unless an expert at the third heaven of the Transcendence realm made a move against him, it would be a one-sided slaughter. They wouldn't be his opponent at all. Once he successfully refined the 9 orifices spiritual pill, his strength would have a qualitative leap. In the blood world, no one would be in his eyes. Even the experts from the other Super Sea regions wouldn't be in his eyes. Moreover, even the current him could at least protect himself against the Transcendence Third Heaven expert. Moreover, he still had the emergence immortal exterminating saber. Whoever dared to target him would be courting death. In that instant, that expert of the Blood Union had already arrived in front of Yishiwen. Clang! Clang! 2 shocking sword lights descended from the sky and slashed towards that expert of the Blood Union. It was Yi Qianqian and Jian Wushuang. Yi Qianqian's sword light directly froze the entire sky, sealing thousands of miles in ice. Jian Wushuang's sword aura didn't seem to have any additional attributes. It was only fast, cunning, and vicious. It directly killed that expert of the Blood Union. All of you, get out of my way! Don't disturb me! That expert of the Blood Union roared and opened his hands to grab the 2 sword auras. However, he obviously underestimated Yi Qianqian and Jian Wushuang's sword auras. They weren't ordinary experts in the Transcendence realm. Although Jian Wushuang was only at the peak of the first heaven of the Transcendence realm, his sword aura was so sharp that even Yi Qianqian couldn't compare. He was a true sword cultivator. This was because not all experts who used swords could be called sword cultivators. Only those who truly regarded the sword as their life and wanted to become one with the sword could be called sword cultivators. The destructive power of a sword cultivator was obvious to all. Bang! Bang! With 2 loud explosions, the terrifying power directly exploded in his hands, causing them to be drenched in blood and rotten flesh to fly everywhere. One could even see the white bones of his fingers. It was an abnormally horrifying sight. That expert from the Blood Union screamed. However, at this moment, he couldn't care about this anymore. In his eyes, Yishiwen's emergence immortal exterminating saber was more important. As long as he had the emergence immortal exterminating saber, he could dominate the entire blood world. He would be able to get whatever he wanted. In an instant, he had already rushed in front of Yishiwen. He looked at Yishiwen with a hideous smile and said, "Kid, hand over the saber, and I can leave your corpse intact." I won't refine you into a blood yuan pill. Then, the pair of bloody big hands moved towards Yishuwen to grab him. Humans die in pursuit of wealth, and birds die in pursuit of food. You won't die unjustly. Suddenly, Yishuwen, who was in front of him, said something that sounded very inexplicable to him. However, before he could continue to think, there was suddenly a dazzling look in front of him. A terrifying saber aura instantly rushed out, right in front of him, and directly slashed into his body. He, who was almost defenseless, was split into two on the spot. He was not prepared at all. He had already confirmed in his heart that Yishuwen should have no strength to wield it. Coupled with the temptation of the emergence immortal exterminating saber, he rushed straight over without any defense. Therefore, Yishuwen's sudden attack caught him off guard. It could even be said that he was defenseless, and was split into two on the spot. Immediately after, he was swept into the blood light of Tianyuan mirror. He still has strength left? Those people who were originally worried about Yishuwen heaved a sigh of relief. However, they were left dumbfounded. Didn't they say that he didn't have the strength to fight back? Why was it that when they actually fought, they realized that it was completely different? Could it be that he was pretending to be weak? At this time, there was only this thought left in everyone's mind. There was only one possibility. If not, how could it be possible that Yishuwen didn't seem to reach his bottom line every time? They had all seen the saber aura with their own eyes. If it were them, even an ordinary expert at the first level of the Transcendence realm would have most of his quintessential essence drained from his body after using the saber aura, and he was only an expert at the intermediate stage of the half-step Transcendence realm. How strong was the chi in his body? Everyone was stunned. They didn't know that Yishuwen's body was integrated with the bloodline of the Star Beast. He was completely different from ordinary people. If not, with the emergence immortal exterminating saber, he might not even be able to release one slash. Even if he managed to release one slash, it was basically impossible for him to continue to release a second slash. But even so, in their opinion, the chi in Yishuwen's body was a little too strong. Sure enough, Yishuwen's slash directly scared the Blood Union Masters who originally wanted to make a move. In fact, they originally wanted to snatch Yishuwen's emergence immortal exterminating saber, but that guy was one step ahead of them. They originally wanted to snatch the emergence immortal exterminating saber from that guy's hands. Who knew that Yishuwen would slash him in half with one slash? Yishuwen was even more relaxed and free than before. Of course, this was also related to the guy just now who was blinded by greed and didn't have much defense. However, they had to admit that Yishuwen's emergence immortal exterminating saber was indeed very terrifying. Most importantly, they didn't know where Yishuwen's bottom line was. Initially, they all thought that Yishuwen had reached his limit, but it turned out that he didn't. The reckless guy had turned into a blood mist. But they didn't want to follow in his footsteps. They wanted someone to test Yishuwen's bottom line again. After all, Yishuwen now looked like an arrow at the end of its flight. He could only half kneel in midair and constantly gasp for breath. But after the lesson from the person just now, no one dared to step forward casually. Your opponent is me. Don't underestimate me, cough cough. Jingbai coughed twice and coughed out some blood, but his movements were still fierce and invincible. Sword light radiated in all directions and turned into a sword net. It directly slashed a Blood Union Master into pieces. This was already the fourth Blood Union Master that he killed. Including the two he killed previously, and the two that Yishuwen killed, the original 16 Third Heaven of Law Manifestation Realm Masters were only left with half. This loss was not small, but these Blood Union people didn't have the intention to give up because Jingbai seemed to only have one breath left. He could fall with the wind at any time. Although he was still brave and invincible, everyone could see that he was really at the end of his life now. The results of these days of treatment were also completely consumed in the battle just now. His breath of life was already extremely weak. If it wasn't for a tenacious will controlling him to fight, if it was an ordinary person, he would have fallen now. But even so, he was not far from falling now. At this point, how could they be willing to give up the situation that they fought so hard to achieve? 16 Third Heaven of Law Manifestation Realm Masters came, and now they actually lost half of them. Even for the blood union who had accumulated for so many years, it could be said to be a heavy loss. If they couldn't grind Jingbai to death, it would really be a pity. Since you don't want to leave, then don't leave! A cold voice suddenly came from below. Chapter 11:20. Along with this voice, more than a dozen terrifying figures rushed up from below and went after the remaining 8 experts of the Blood Union. They were the experts at the 3rd level of the Law Manifestation Realm who healed Jingbai in the City Lord's mansion. They were also the top human experts in the Blood World apart from Jingbai. Although Jingbai only fought for less than half an hour for them, the recovery ability of the experts at the 3rd level of the Law Manifestation Realm was extremely powerful. Unless they were seriously injured like Jingbai, such a long time was enough for them to fully recover. Seeing these figures, Jingbai's eyes began to blur. A trace of a gratified smile flashed across the corner of his mouth. His figure directly fell from the sky. He could not even maintain his figure in midair. Poof! A figure flew up and caught Jingbai. Yishuan took a closer look. It was a woman in her 20s. She was wearing purple tights. Her body was curvaceous and unusually hot. On her delicate face, there was a small dark red mole on the side of her lips which added a bit of charm. She raised her eyebrows and shouted, "Don't hold back! Kill these bastards for me!" The elites from Blood Alliance who had fought against Jingbai before were instantly forced to retreat under the ambush of these elites. In fact, some of them had to face more than 2 elites at the same time, and they were swiftly defeated. They were not their opponents at all. Seeing these people appear, Yishuan immediately let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, this wave of crisis seemed to be finally over. At this time, the qi in his body had also recovered about 70% to 80%. His combat power did not recover to the peak, but it was almost there. With the Phoenix regeneration technique to protect his body, his recovery ability was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. At this time, the woman in purple looked at Yishuan and asked, "What's your name?" "Yishuan," Yishuan said and cupped his hands. "I won't say anything else. This time, it's all thanks to your help. Bai Yi and I both owe you a favor. In the future, this eastern city will be your home. If anyone dares to covet your things, they will be going against our eastern sea region and seeking their own deaths." When the purple-robed woman said this, she imbued her voice with quintessential essence. Immediately, her voice spread throughout the entire city. The threat in her words was very heavy. Those who originally had designs on Yishuan's emergence immortal exterminating saber suddenly felt their necks shrink, and they felt depressed. The original covetous thoughts in their hearts suddenly vanished. They could ignore Yishuan's threat. For the sake of the emergence immortal exterminating saber, they could disregard anything. However, they could not ignore the threat of the Eastern Sea region. As one of the 4 super behemoths in the Endless Sea region, it was a behemoth whether it was inside or outside the Blood World. Even if it wanted to destroy a large sea region, it would not be a problem at all. The only ones who would dare to fight against the Eastern Sea region were the remaining few super sea regions or people like Blood Alliance. They were a bunch of lunatics who thought that they could only hide in the Blood World and had already gone mad. Yishuan cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for helping me out." How could he not hear that this purple-robed woman had helped him out of a huge trouble? With the halo of the Eastern Sea region above his head, there were obviously not many people who had the guts to plot against his emergence immortal exterminating saber. Obviously, when they were healing, they did not give up on paying attention to the battle situation here. Otherwise, they would not say such words. Although she seemed to have a fiery temper, she was a meticulous woman. "It's nothing. It's just a small effort. Compared to your kindness of saving Bai Yi, this is nothing at all," said the purple-robed woman as she shook her head. Then, she said to an Eastern Sea region expert next to her, I'll leave Bai to you first. I want to tear these bugs apart with my own hands. At this time, more and more experts from the city lord's mansion arrived in midair. All of them were law manifestation experts. After the purple-robed woman handed Jingbai to a man, she directly turned into a purple stream of light and rushed into the battle. The man hurriedly brought Jingbai back to the city lord's mansion. He should be going to treat him. Bastard, how dare you beat Bai up like this? I can't even bear to touch a finger of him. Who do you think you are? The purple-robed woman roared, and the veins on her face protruded. She was abnormally angry. The purple long whip in her hand was like a purple dragon that broke through the sky and lashed down towards a blood union expert. Pa! There was a loud sound of the long whip falling. Although it looked like a soft long whip, the blood union expert was like a meteor. He was whipped down and fell directly into the city. He directly crashed into many houses and smashed a large pit on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. However, looking at how he was gasping for air, it was obvious that he was dying. When the cultivators in the city saw this scene, they immediately had the urge to swallow their saliva. What kind of joke was this? This had to be fake, right? With one whip, he flung a third heaven transcendence realm expert to the ground. Although he had expended a lot of energy, this was too ferocious. Who is this woman? She's so valiant! Someone who didn't know what was going on asked. You must be an outsider. Otherwise, how can you not know Changzi? In our Eastern Sea region, this is also a legendary name. No one knows her roots and origin. She suddenly appeared in the Eastern Sea region once and was invincible among the younger generation with a long whip. Later, she was defeated by Jingbai's hands. Then, no one knows why she fell in love with Jingbai. She changed her name to Changzi, saying that it was to match Jingbai's name. We don't even know her real name. However, she is deeply in love with Jingbai. It hasn't changed for so many years. She has always been by Jingbai's side and has never left. In that case, this Changzi is the second strongest expert in your Eastern Sea region. She is so powerful. Someone said in amazement. One should know what kind of place the Eastern Sea region was. It was the holy land of humans in the entire Endless Sea region. It was the pinnacle of martial arts. It could be said that there were countless experts there. There were even many experts who had surpassed the law manifestation realm. If one didn't surpass the law manifestation realm, it would be impossible to establish a foothold there. To be able to make a name for herself as the second strongest expert in that place, Changzi's strength was also ridiculously strong. Even if she was not as good as Jingbai, the difference was very small. More or less. Although I don't know if there are any hidden experts, almost all of these experts who are on the surface have been defeated by Changzi. Yi Shiwen, Yi Qianqian, and Jian Wushuang had just landed from midair when they heard the discussion about Changzi. The second strongest expert among the younger generation in the Eastern Sea region? She was really amazing. If one looked at it this way, then it wasn't strange. Although there were many experts in the Blood Alliance, how could they be compared with the elites from a place like the Eastern Sea region? Most of the members of the Blood Alliance were warriors who accidentally stayed in the Blood World. Among these people, most of them could only rank at the bottom in the Blood World trial. What they relied on was that they had many more years of cultivation compared to these experts. Although there were some top experts who accidentally stayed in the Blood World and became members of the Blood Alliance, they were the minority after all. Therefore, overall, the experts from the Eastern Sea region were a notch higher. Compared to a top-notch expert like Changzi, these people were even more stretched. With Changzi joining the fray, the battle quickly became one-sided. Even though the people from Blood Alliance still wanted to fight back, there was no way they could be Changzi's opponent, especially since Jingbai was heavily injured and might die at any moment. This caused Changzi to practically descend into a berserk state. Every single time she lashed out, a Blood Alliance elite would be caught off guard, and they would explode or be sent flying. Compared to the enraged Changzi, the other elites seemed to have become much dimmer. However, at this time, no one cared so much because they were also filled with anger. At this time, those who were willing to spend time and effort to heal Jingbai were the top experts of the human clan who had a good relationship with Jingbai. Seeing that their good friend was seriously injured, they were already burning with anger. How could they care about this? The situation in the sky was simply one-sided. Therefore, Yishiwen didn't want to participate in the battle. Yishiwen could feel that there were a lot of greedy eyes hidden in the crowd, but they didn't dare to look directly at Yishiwen. When Yishiwen's eyes swept over them, they would be startled, and then quickly avert their eyes. Everyone, go up now. Activate all the defenses, and kill all the blood fiends outside the city. Everything on their bodies will belong to you. Our Oriental City won't take a single cent. An expert of the Oriental City stood up and said at this time. Everyone thought that this was true. There were many blood fiends outside. Not to mention, the blood nuclei of these blood fiends could be sold for a lot of money. Moreover, every part of these blood fiends' bodies was very valuable. Everyone shouted and rushed towards the blood fiends as they thought of this. The situation was exactly the same as before. However, the difference was that they had no choice but to fight desperately to save their lives. But now, they wanted to make a fortune. The opportunity to make a fortune was right in front of them. So, how could they let go of such a good opportunity at this time? So, they rushed forward one after another. The experts of the Oriental City were holding the line. Moreover, the matrix of the Oriental City's barrier had been activated. Therefore, the pressure on them had suddenly decreased. The blood fiends had been thrown into confusion under the attack of the Oriental City's matrix. So, they were powerless to resist the army of human experts. Yishiwen and the others didn't hesitate, and rushed forward. Chapter 11:21. In the bustling market of Oriental City, people were coming and going. Countless warriors were shuttling back and forth, looking for the treasures they wanted. 10 days had passed since the Blood Union's attack. The entire Oriental City had begun to regain its liveliness. However, this was only the first wave of the Blood Union's attack. More and more human cities and experts were attacked by the Blood Union. Aside from Oriental City, there was even a large sea area that was attacked by the Blood Union. Under the summons of Oriental City, all the experts who were willing to come all went to Oriental City. Oriental City also began to become unprecedentedly lively. However, everyone knew that this was only temporary. Because soon, they would have to leave. As the Blood Union attacked human warriors more and more, finally, some people began to be unable to take it anymore and began to choose to leave. They were originally going to leave, but now they were forced to leave by the Blood Union. Although they were somewhat unwilling, they had no other choice. After all, there was a Blood Union in the blood world that specifically targeted human experts. Although Changzi personally led a team and cleaned up a few of the Blood Union's bases, the strength that the Blood Union had accumulated for so many years was far beyond everyone's imagination. Even if they were to fight against the joint forces of the human race and the sea folk, they would not be at a complete disadvantage, let alone against the human race. Under the situation of the sea folk's silence, the human race basically retreated when facing the Blood Union. Although the human race had the absolute advantage in numbers, it was useless because in terms of top experts, they were completely at a disadvantage. Moreover, they were in the light while the Blood Union was in the dark. The situation was suddenly reversed. Changzi led a team to attack the Blood Union's bases, but they could not keep up with the speed of the Blood Union robbing human experts. This accelerated the panic of many human experts. However, in their cities, it was very likely that they would be attacked by the Blood Union. Now, as the Blood Union's experts became more and more rampant, they could not even give up their cities. After slaughtering a few cities, they obtained a lot of blood yuan pills and refined those people into blood yuan pills. A city could easily have tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of people. One could imagine how many blood yuan pills there were. Due to the replenishment of a large number of blood yuan pills, the strength of the experts of the Blood Union also increased very quickly. Even the frequency of experts at the third level of the Transcendence realm was increasing. More and more experts advanced to the third level of the Transcendence realm. Now, other than Oriental City, which they still didn't dare to enter, there were even experts appearing near the large sea. One could imagine how arrogant these people were. This time, each sea region might have only sent 100 or 200 experts. However, with so many sea regions accumulating over 10 million experts, all of them had started to gather in Dongfang City. One could imagine how lively Dongfang City was right now. Fortunately, Dongfang City had undergone countless years of expansion and was now extremely huge. Otherwise, it would not have been able to accommodate over 10 million experts. Because so many experts had gathered in Dongfang City, the city's market had become unprecedentedly lively. Countless experts were exchanging the heavenly materials and earthly treasures that they had obtained in the outside world or in the blood world. Everyone knew that they would leave the blood world in less than 20 days. No one knew when they would have the chance to exchange heavenly materials and earthly treasures with experts from the Endless Sea region. Yi Shiwen was sitting cross-legged in a room of an inn that was very close to the bazaar. He had already put up a sign saying that he wanted to purchase elemental returning immortal grass. Now that all the experts of the human race in the entire Endless Sea region had gathered here, the chances of obtaining the elemental returning immortal grass were much higher than when he had written down his initial estimate. But even so, Yi Shiwen had been hanging the signboard for 10 days, but there was still no news. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Now, he truly experienced the feeling of suffocation. Usually, there were many things that he didn't care about, but when he was about to use them and died, he found out that he didn't have them at all. That kind of suffocating feeling was like that. Especially now that the 9 Orifices Divine Pill was only missing one main ingredient, it was even more so. However, no matter how anxious he was, it was useless. Now Yi Shiwen had to look at the 9 Orifices Divine Pill. He had just entered the half-step law phase intermediate realm, and it would take time for him to accumulate. If he did not have the 9 Orifices Divine Pill, it would be impossible for him to enter the half-step law phase advanced realm in a short period of time, let alone enter the law phase realm. Although this trip to the blood world had not been completed, even so, Yi Shiwen had obtained a lot of benefits. When he had first entered the blood world, he had at most killed experts at the half-step law phase initial realm. Now, even experts at the second heaven of the law phase realm were no match for him. His strength had soared so much that even he did not expect it before he entered. "Yimo, I am considering whether to leave the blood world after 20 days," Yi Shiwen said. He had been thinking about this for a long time. He was somewhat unwilling to leave the blood world at this time. "I'm really unwilling to leave now. The unique blood chi in the blood world can quickly improve my cultivation. If I continue to stay here for a year and a half, even without the 9 Orifices Divine Pill, I can rely on my own strength to enter the law manifestation realm. At that time, no matter how big the blood world is, I can do whatever I want," Yi Shiwen said. As for the threat of the blood union, it might be a big problem for the ordinary experts in the blood union, but it was not a problem for him at all. As long as he was careful, he did not have to worry about being surrounded by the blood union. Even if he was surrounded, he could escape unscathed as long as the opponent's strength was not too high. He had demon wings, which could make his speed soar to the extreme in an instant. With the opening of the blood world's exit, he could return to the flourished Cloud Sea region at any time. As the saying goes, he could attack or retreat at will. He did not have to worry about anything at all. Before entering the blood world, these people received a token. With this token, Heaven's Gate could easily find the coordinates of the flourished Cloud Sea region without being teleported to some unknown sea region by the space-time turbulence. I also think it's a pity for you to leave like this. If you are bringing a group of people, I don't recommend you to stay. However, if you are alone, you can wander for another year and a half. Anyway, you just need to leave before the 3-year period is up," said Yimo. "Moreover, I keep feeling that the Oceanic tribe's silence this time is a little abnormal. Although the Blood Alliance's target is the humans, they should understand what will happen once the Blood Alliance grows. Will the Blood Alliance's members be satisfied with just killing human experts? That's definitely impossible. Those elites from Blood Alliance will definitely do anything for the sake of survival and to reach even higher realms of cultivation. There's no reason for the Sea Folk to not know about this. That's why there might be something that even we don't know about. Yi Shiwen nodded. Now that the people outside were in a panic, there were not many people who would think about this matter, but he was different. For him, these things did not matter at all. For him, the Blood Union's encirclement and suppression was something that he could leave at any time. It did not matter at all. Therefore, he calmed down and planned these things. Moreover, the Mingxin ancient tree allowed him to be in the coma state at any time. He would not miss the slightest problem. Hearing Yemo also said so, Yi Shiwen immediately calmed down and said, "In that case, I have to give it a try. Leaving unwillingly is not my style." At this moment, there was a knock on the door outside Yi Shiwen's door. "Who is it?" asked Yi Shiwen. "It's me. The elemental recovery celestial grass that you want has been picked up." At this moment, a message from Jian Wushuang came from outside. Yi Shiwen's spirit was instantly lifted. He had been waiting for someone to see the elemental recovery celestial grass. Now that it had finally happened, his mood instantly improved. "That's great, wait for me." Yi Shiwen immediately jumped up from his bed and directly pushed the door open. When Yi Shiwen rushed to the market, Yi Qian and the others were already waiting there, just in case someone intercepted him. Although Yi Shiwen did not say it, they all knew from Yi Shiwen's tone that the elemental recovery celestial grass was probably very important to Yi Shiwen. Now Yi Shiwen was the core of their team. Unconsciously, everyone faintly regarded him as the team leader. In front of them, there was a middle-aged man with a face full of beard waiting. "Are you the one who has the elemental recovery celestial grass?" Yi Shiwen immediately rushed forward and asked. The middle-aged man nodded and said, "That's right. Are you the one who wants the elemental recovery celestial grass?" He glanced at Yi Shiwen, who seemed to be a little anxious. His eyeballs rolled, and suddenly, he had some ideas. "If you want the elemental recovery celestial grass this time, I must exchange it with bloodstones. 1,000,000 bloodstones!" He smiled slyly. He had calculated that Yi Shiwen was in need of 1,000,000 bloodstones now. If he did not ask for an exorbitant price now and extort a sum of money, when would he ever get it? 1,000,000? You might as well go rob someone, Miao Sisi immediately said. Although the elemental immortal grass was rare, it wasn't very precious. Under normal circumstances, if one were to calculate the value of the bloodstones, it would be considered pretty good if one could sell it for 100,000. Yet Miao Sisi asked for 1,000,000 in one go. Wasn't this clearly extortion? "Forget it, 1,000,000 it is," Yi Shiwen said. He did not have that much time to waste on this person. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.